2019 meeting of the Morrisville Town Council to order. Our town mission statement is connecting our diverse community to an enhanced quality of life through innovative programs and services. I would like to recognize our tonight's Sergeant at Arms, Sergeant Chad Penland. Thank you very much for being here. I will share tonight's invocation. We gather this evening to represent and take action on behalf of our fellow citizens and Morrisville stakeholders to the best of our ability. As always, we strive to do so with open minds and open hearts. All who are able, please rise and join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we adopt tonight's agenda, Town Council policy is to review and ensure there are no conflicts of interest or appearance of conflict of interest with any items on the agenda. Anyone have any such conflicts?
None.
Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt this evening's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries unanimously 6-0. Public address will occur at 6:30 p.m. or following the completion of the item in progress. If council is hearing another item during that time, staff will complete the item and receive public address for up to 30 minutes, then resume regular item discussion at the end of the public address period. There are 3 presentations this evening: a Fire Station number 2 update, a wayfinding program update, and a discussion of senior programming facility options. Greg Turner, Interim Assistant Town Manager, will facilitate the Fire Station 2 update. Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This will be a brief update on where we are with the McCrimmon Road project and how it impacts and affects our Fire Station number 2. As you know, the NCDOT project will be modifying the intersection of McCrimmon and 54 from what is a fairly complicated intersection to an extremely complicated intersection. And so the intersection will actually change from a at-grade signalized intersection with a railroad crossing to an at-grade intersection with no railroad crossing, but that intersection actually is the ramp for a grade-separated intersection. So it will change, but become more complex in some ways and simpler in some ways. But the bottom line is that the effects on the fire station are such that we really can't operate from that location. So if you look at the diagram now, you can see what the existing design looks like. And I know it's hard to read, but if you think there are a lot of lines and confusion, there will be a lot of lines and confusion in the real world when it's all complete. Here's a zoom in or a cropping of that design plan. And these aren't complete designs, but they're the most current that we have. What you see in yellow is the outline of the existing station. What you see in red is the public utility easement. We are told that that is the boundary of where the construction impacts will be. The important message there is that that line goes right through the building, consuming about a third of it. There's a pedestrian side path or a multi-use path that is grayed out, and that's going to be a wide area for bicycles and pedestrians to use. That's an important function for a road of this character, especially when you look at the number of lanes. If you analyze it, you'll see that there are dual lanes on all approaches, dual left turn lanes, dual through lanes on all approaches. So it's a very complicated intersection, and having an ability for the pedestrians to have a safe area in order to navigate through the intersection and along the roadway is important. So there are a number of reasons why we don't think that it's practical to try to utilize the existing location. The turning movement restrictions that are going to be required by the construction of the median, and the median is important. The amount of traffic volume that we'll have because of the number of lanes, as well as just the background traffic that you have on the roadway today, and a soil contamination issue that I think we talked about in the workshop when we talked about this the last time. So there are a number of issues that make this site an impractical site, so we will have to look at another location. Now, as we talk about this, what I want you to keep in mind is we're not here tonight to really talk about any specific locations. That's a issue for another day. But we do want to share with you the kind of issues that go into the decision about what is a good alternative location. And primary service area for the facility is the north and northwest parts of the town. The chief has advised that they would like to look for a site that's at least 3 acres in size. We will need to have full access, meaning no turning restrictions because of islands or turning movement restrictions because of signs. And it would possibly be necessary or desirable to have preemption if traffic congestion is going to be an issue at whatever location is ultimately chosen. We just want you to have a feeling for the kind of things that the staff is looking at as they consider alternative locations. The process that we'll be going through in order to be able to acquire and to develop the new site works like this. We will be working with NCDOT, or they'll be working with us, in order to acquire our property. They will do an appraisal of the value of the property as it currently exists and what its residual value will be after their project goes through. So they'll make a prediction or an estimation as to what the reduced value of the property is. That's what they will base their offer to us on. The appraisal, as I say here, will assume that there will be no construction beyond the public utility easement that was shown in red on that previous slide. Their offer, as I said, will be based upon the reduced value of the site, and the town can get its own appraisal. And we are, in fact, working on that as we speak. We've hired an appraiser, and we've got someone who's working on our own appraisal in case we are not happy with the value that NCDOT offers us for the property. NCDOT will consider the town's appraisal as they work on their final negotiations with us. And then once we've come to agreement, then the property can move to the next phase, which is for us to start acquisition of an alternative site. We can think about alternative sites, but it would be best not to purchase anything until we finish the negotiations with NCDOT about the value that we're going to receive and when we'll receive it. So here you see the sequence: receive NCDOT payment for the site, use that money plus additional funds from the town because their compensation, we're confident, won't be adequate to build a new facility. We are fairly certain that we will have to supplement in order to build a new facility with town resources. We have a design-build team that, a design-build request for proposals out on the street right now. It's due next month. The proposals are due next month. So we will be reviewing those and making a decision on a design-build team sometime in November. Once we have NCDOT's money, or at least their offer, once we have a design-build team hired, then it would be our expectation to move from this site to an identified site designed and built by the design-build team. However, fire department is developing a contingency plan in case we have to move to a temporary facility. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I'll start so we can get going with acquisition exploration before we actually have the money in hand, but we have to have the negotiations finalized.
Correct. Correct.
Councilmember Garamella.
So when DOT will appraise our property, will that include the cost of the building and the land? Because primarily they are like destroying the whole building, right?
It will include both, yes, sir.
Okay, and then you showed us the red line. After that red line, the public easement line is, do we know or estimate how many acres is left, and can that place be used for any other town purposes?
We will know. I can't tell you off the top of my head, but whether it can be used for other town purposes has not been determined yet.
Okay,
There is a issue with soil contamination on the site that would have to be addressed in whatever alternative use that the town may make of the residual property. So, for instance, there are certain activities that the town might consider that wouldn't be appropriate for it until the soil contamination is remediated. There are other alternative applications or activities that you could do by capping over the existing site.
And at a later time, if you can give us how much land is left out, because we did acquire, I think, 1.6 or some acres next to it. So a combination of both those lots, what it's worth and not worth, I mean, what total amount of acreage is.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rao, then Mayor Pro Tem Scroggins-Johnson.
So Councilmember Garamella answered my first question. I just wanted to reaffirm, first of all, you probably already went over it, but the timeline again. So we're talking.
The NCDOT's STIP, State Transportation Improvement Plan, calls for construction in 2021 through 2023, assuming that they stay on schedule. It's not a safe bet to assume they'll stay on schedule.
And there have been some projects that have been put on hold recently, I've observed.
Correct.
So I think that'd be not, obviously you'll keep us apprised of that. I'm assuming that, and I've heard this from other businesses in Morrisville too, there are a couple of other businesses being relocated. And I'm assuming that we're having discussions with their staff at DOT, just continuing to look at options, because it gives me a little bit of heartburn to know that, this is a DOT project, and even though they're compensating us, it's still having to do a lot of work to move our fire station, and this isn't really good for our citizens. So, I guess we are having discussions with staff at their level, correct?
There are weekly to bi-weekly discussions with NCDOT about it. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Well, I think we just need to continue, and if there's any help we need to help in that in any way, let us know. Thank you.
Will do.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Update. This has been very concerning to me after we learned that we were actually going to lose the station. So, every little bit of information is helpful. Looking at this, it does look like the building is unusable, and they're only going to give us a partial, potentially, still negotiating, but would they consider the whole building unusable, or would they only consider it unusable to the point of the public utility easement?
One of the things we're trying to do is get their real estate guy in to talk with us directly. But from our view, the building would be totally lost. The land still has residual value, and
Right.
Back to the previous council question, it could be used for something else. And the point that the state will make is that the land and the building aren't reduced to zero value. There's still some value in the land.
Right.
The building may be totally lost, but the land still has value.
Right. I mean, at that point, I would think the building is totally lost. So here's the follow-up question. If we had the opportunity to rebuild or reuse it for a town purpose, where would the road access be? Because it obviously cannot be where it is today, because they are changing the configuration of the road. They have to be to the side of this parcel instead of the front like we have today?
If it was being used for something other than the fire department, then it could be a right-in, right-out off of 54 or a right-in, right-out off of the new ramp. But there wouldn't be an opportunity for left turns in or out from either street.
So it would have restricted movement, which is the whole reason we're moving the fire station.
That is correct.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Schlink.
Thank you. It's nice that you've agreed to shepherd this project for almost 3 years.
I'm not smiling.
I know. Okay.
Okay, very good.
So I think this is a great start. I think going forward, we asked some nice questions. If we could, next time it comes up, get a timeline of like when, I think you indicated 2023 is when they start construction, maybe?
2021 through 2023.
Oh, 2 years, okay, and see if that slips. And then a timeline on how long it would take to build a fire station, and then kind of put that in the equation, then kind of put in the equation when we can make a decision about property. And I think the easiest, I mean, this is, I can't believe the state wouldn't allow us to do things because it's about safety. To say, hey, you can, yes, we agree, this isn't going to be usable. We need a fire station up and running before it starts impacting it. We can't wait and do a temporary station in Hotline. I just throw that out there now for my comment to people think about. I'd like to see that drilled down on, because I can't believe that, well, pros and cons on buying property before or after, because we have plenty of town needs. As we indicated here, we could reuse that site for something that they need on the ramp. Will the ramp impact anything that we just bought on the other side of McCrimmon's on that extension? Because I thought that's why we were buying it, for an outlet possibly out that way, but, and that's another.
I'll have to get back to you.
And then I noticed here the right-of-way of the railroad is not moving, it doesn't seem like. We're not going to move the road to accommodate the 100 feet that the right-of-way requires. Because at the other end of town at Weston, that's what they continue to talk about. And I wondered, well, they set the precedent here because they're not making us move it, so why do we have to move to 54 at the other end of town and take out an apartment complex? Again, I just something, when we talk to them, Benjamin, if you could bring that up to them, talk to them. If they want 100 foot, why don't they want 100 foot here when they ask for it today?
Certainly.
Member Johnson, your questions?
So getting back to the timeline, that's the only thing I'm concerned with, because there's ongoing conversation clearly, and there are going to be more details and things are going to change over time. So when can council expect to see this back again with another update? Do you have any idea when you'll have any more of the details to share?
Probably in
Any of this, quite frankly.
1 to 2 months.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Excellent. Mr. Turner, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you in 2 months. Our next item, Martha Page, Town Manager, will provide the wayfinding program update.
I'm all discombobulated here. Thank you, Mayor. I'm subbing in for Stephanie Smith, who has spearheaded this project till this point, and she's done a fantastic job, and I want to give her credit for a lot of these efforts. And I'll talk about how we're going to transition this project at the end. But giving you a quick little bit of background about our project, this was originally part of our overall branding initiative. There's really 3 primary components of that, which is our building signs, which we've been implementing over several years. The gateway signs, a reminder, 3 of those are imminently being installed, 3 pending future road projects, trying not to put stuff up that would come back out. And then this is the 3rd major component, which is our wayfinding signs. What was the goal of this part of the project? One, we have some old signs out here that needed updated. We also wanted to broaden and expand signage that sort of highlights some of our other facilities and how to connect on some of our major thoroughfares to some of our facilities beyond just Town Hall Drive. We issued an RFQ for this project in February and awarded the contract in April. The funding for a partial implementation of the wayfinding was in fiscal year 19 and has been carried over to fund what I'm going to call phase 1 of this project. The contract details, the successful bidder and the person or the group that we negotiated with is called Poblocki Sign Company. It was nice that they are a Morrisville company and know how to travel and get around Morrisville, so we felt that was very helpful. They are also our gateway sign vendor, so they were successful on both projects. This is 2 different contracts. They have some local experience both in Raleigh and Wake County, and they did implement a wayfinding sign plan in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. It is a turnkey contract. Some of these skills are not ones that we have by town staff, so they're doing it from front end to back end for us. What does that mean? They analyzed and documented the conditions that exist in town. That also included several reviews and iterations with staff to verify and validate what they saw and conceptually visualized. So a lot of that was based on our input. They've done all of the development to include the functional options for the signs, the naming areas, the use of colors, and I'll explain some of that in a few minutes. They've identified the locations and messaging for the signs. They will produce and fabricate the signs, and they will install the signs. And that includes securing any easements or anything that they would need to do to put the signs in place. So what are our next steps on this? Well, we identified what we were looking for. So we focused on our major road and arteries to put our signs. So just beyond Town Hall, it's important that those signs connect. What do I mean by that? So we don't want to direct somebody to Town Hall part of the way and not give them some clue as to where to go from there. So the strategic placement is connected. It's not one individual sign, it's the network of signs to get people through town. Focused on our primary buildings and facilities, so can't put everything on a sign is what I'm saying there. Very important to have a clean, visible appearance to the sign. If you notice our sign out here, it's pretty small. So want to make sure that the size of the letters, etc., are big enough for people to see but not hurt their safety or impede traffic. We were very specific about needing a feasible, expandable, and modifiable plan because we've got so many things going on in town and things will change, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then it's still always important to avoid sign clutter. So those are the components of the program. So what has that resulted in? Recommendations for 30 signs throughout the town. There are 5 primary clusters of where signs are. You may have noticed you have a map here for you to look at break or before. I also have another one to lay out if you want to look. But they really are focused on our major arteries. NC 54 Town Hall Drive and Church Street area, McCrimmon Parkway, Aviation Parkway / Morrisville Carpenter Road, Morrisville Parkway, and Davis Drive. And then there's just, I'll call it a few outlier signs in some strategic areas as well. What did we focus on? Well, Town Hall in the future, that could be Town Center. And so that's what I mean by modifiable. If we became a different kind of campus, what are called blades in these signs can be taken out and removed at a lower cost as we would need to modify our sound. Focused on identifying where departments that the community, the public might be looking for. They are identified on some of the signs. Morrisville Aquatics and Fitness Center, our parks and greenways, with a focus on the parks because our greenways connect to our parks. So added value by identifying a park. That also includes the Healthy Food Hub. We also recognize that there are some public facilities, while not ours, are important to our community. Examples, the library, the Wake County Convenience Center, and Wake Tech. So you'll see some of those on some of the signs. Where are we at? We are proposing a phase 1 installation with a prioritized order of signs that ensures the connectivity I mentioned. We will continue to focus on the town hall area to replace our existing signs first. We have identified 5 for immediate installation, can phase the additional signs as budgeted, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute as well. And we're very purposeful at avoiding signs that would have to be removed or could be destroyed from some of our construction. It is where you might expect signs to go in right away. So that's why I'm trying to call that out, because we will not be placing signs right now. At least, I'll come back to that. Morrisville, Carpenter Road, McCrimmon Parkway, and Aviation Drive. Those decisions were made before we got the recent news about some of the halt and delay of the project, so we will want to just go back and reprioritize that to make sure that we achieve some of those goals. Our next, I mentioned, we'll review our prioritization. We'll verify all the directional accuracy. So I'll show you in a minute. There's arrows. We want to make sure they're all pointing the right way and make sense. We'll provide Poblocki with the final approval and the notice to proceed. 5 to 7 signs can be installed in phase 1. That's really identified by our carryover funding. The signs are about $5,000 to install, fabricate, the easements, etc. And as I mentioned, those blades can be changed in the future. And from here, Kyle Cooper in our Parks and Recreation is going to be leading and facilitating this project. So I've got a sample to show you. I'm not a Vanna here.
That's the actual size?
That is the actual size, I'm told. Just a couple nuances. Please don't pay attention to the colors. Not a true, accurate depiction of our colors. They have our colors, and we'll be using those. Our first iteration did not include our favorite M in Morrisville, so we've added that to the initial phase. And I think what's important is we wanted to keep those letters big, so it does sort of limit what we could put on signs. So, but this is an example of our sign and what they'll look like. I think we're pretty proud of this effort, and we're happy to answer questions about any specific details as you look at where the placement is going to be. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
If I could start, the chart has blue, G1, G2s, and G3.
That's actually identification of where some of our gateway signs are going to go.
Great. Going back to where the departments are, I don't see fire department on there at all. Do we expect to point towards our fire stations too, or not?
We do not expect to point to our fire stations. Fire stations are not typically where the public goes for business, other than car seat installations, and it's right here at Town Hall.
Okay, thank you. Other questions for Town Manager Page? I'll start with Councilmember Garamella, then Councilmember Schlink.
Can schools be added to it? Because I saw Vic County Library and Convenience Center, so I didn't see the schools there.
So again, that is a choice to make, but people that need to go to schools know where they need to go. So for a general public purpose, they were not included in recommendations.
That's fine.
Councilmember Schlink?
Back to that sign. So if I'm looking on the page, so we could have up to 4 of those.
4 blades.
Thank you, Councilmember Schilling, because I forgot. Attached to your presentation is just a sample of what the signs were. Yes, you can see some bigger, some smaller. One of the things they talked about is not making them all look the same, but you have the choice of 3 blades, 1 blade, smaller, 1 larger, 1 that's larger, 4 smaller ones. We have those choices.
Is that a 2-blade or a 4-blade?
Yeah, this is 2 large blades on here.
We could add these. I mean, the locations also. We could add more locations.
Yeah, Yeah, you want it to be integrated as a part of your plan, but that is certainly possible.
Is there buy-in by commercial? Could a commercial entity like a weight competition center say, hey, I can pay you guys to put the weight? Would that be something you guys considered or no?
We did not consider that. It could be considered.
I mean, they did get Wake County Sports Fund for $1 million. That's the only reason I bring that one up other than, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Scroggins Johnson, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This is exciting. This is really a nice transition, extending our brand. We do have some wayfinding signs now, but we're going to be upgrading them to the new design. I did want to kind of piggyback on Councilmember Garamella's question about schools. Because we share the Cedar Fork Elementary with the Cedar Fork Community Center, I would think that we would have that community center sign as part of our park and rec signage.
And I do believe Cedar Fork Community Center is on at least one sign.
Okay, great.
I can verify that.
The other is related to Councilmember Schlink's question about other entities that are not directly town-related, like our Chamber of Commerce. Our Chamber of Commerce is embedded with a lot of our town offices, and I think it would be nice to, if they wanted to have a wayfinding sign for the chamber, that might be a consideration to the committee.
And that may also be on a sign. I will verify that as well.
Okay, because they are truly our partners. But other than that, I look forward to seeing the next phase.
Thank you.
Also, I was thinking about the schools. The people who are going to the schools know how to get there, but they also serve as polling places, at least Morrisville Elementary and Parkside. So that might be another reason to consider having schools be marked.
So I'd encourage you to stay true to what the purpose of the program is. Polling places are temporary, and we can't put everything on a sign. We have to be very strategic in those choices.
Right. Understood. Okay. Thank you very much for that
Thank you.
update. Appreciate it. Our final presentation item is a senior programming facility options update. Martha Page, Town Manager, will facilitate our discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I'll start with some background on this initiative. Currently, we have a seniors program that operates out of Cedar Fork Community Center. Worked with Parks and Recreation staff as we were going through the budget process last year and trying to recognize the growing needs of our senior population in the town. To get some information for context for you, we currently serve approximately 200 unique individual seniors in our program. Over the course of the activities that we currently provide, there are typically 10 to 50 people in those events or programs. So provided some examples, a chair yoga program may have 10 regular participants, line dancing 20, the Senior Fridays, which is primarily social time and free play, cards, things like that, is about 25. And then bingo and special events pull in 50, and 50 is really a cap. So we really don't know how many we'd serve if we had more room. Those are typically capped out events. And program participation does continue to increase. That has been felt more recently with Bond and Carey being out of service for a period of time as they renovated, and we've attracted some of their seniors to our program. So the program does continue to grow. As I mentioned, they operate primarily out of Cedar Fork Community Center. There is one room that's approximately 1,500 square feet that they use for their programs and activities. They are sometimes displaced because of other things going on at either the school or the community center. Currently, they operate with shared staffing at the center, and there is no capacity there for additional programming. Morrisville Aquatics and Fitness Center has served as the primary hub for some of the exercise activities. That is also a shared staffing situation, and those programs have currently been displaced. I referenced that the current budget funding is an enterprise type model. What that really means is they take in $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 from bingo, barbecue, and that's what pays for the cost of the supplies to support the program. So it's really a break-even type of operation right now. The trips that the seniors take are covered, the cost of those are covered by the participants, and general staffing is just covered in the overall Parks and Recreation budget. It is not allocated to the senior programs. So what did the senior advisory committee and talking to the participants in the program request? So this is their big picture desire, a 7,000 to 8,000 square foot meeting area to incorporate a reception area, 2 to 3 classrooms or meeting spaces that could be a big room or dividable into smaller rooms. That is primarily to be able to offer multiple and concurrent activities, which they cannot currently do. Looking for a large activity room, open space, approximately 4,500 square feet that could also accommodate pickleball. They would need storage, a front desk, and parking of about 60 to 80 spaces to accommodate the needs of the program. What else would be needed? Audiovisual equipment, computers, furniture, supplies, dedicated staff support, and pickleball equipment. Other town staff and equipment would also be needed. What do I mean by that? Internet, telephones, office space, those types of things. What could be accommodated in this expanded space? So these are the program opportunities that were mentioned by the group. And you'll see there's a variety of things: arts, cultural, exercise, educational type activities, and then again, pickleball. It's a theme here. So the budget proposal for that type of facility. So I did some estimations of what that would. Did I skip? I didn't. I skipped it. So I've missed a slide. I'm sorry. Let's see. No, this is it. Okay. So I tried to estimate what the cost of a facility or space to accommodate those types of needs might be. Was figuring that size space at about $15 a square foot. Tried to project operating hours and staffing that might be needed in a facility to expand hours and operations, and then a program budget to support the activities. And I came up with a number of about $263,000. Again, that's based on a budget estimate, not on any hard or concrete. It's just a pro forma type number. If we wanted to explore pickleball, the equipment and support supplies and staff for that alone are $75,000 for I'll call it a portable pickleball equipment. And then there's the one-time costs we mentioned, furniture, fixtures, and equipment for a facility of this size. So there would be an additional $125,000 of one-time or startup costs. And none of those numbers includes any of what are considered overhead costs, the utilities, the janitorial, the phone, the internet, et cetera, that were not calculated into that number. So as we were putting together the budget, this did not fit into our budget priorities. So what was requested and approved and adopted by council was a modified approach to getting something started for the senior programs. So it was a little bit smaller square footage with the same lease rate, so that was a lease of about $108,000. I approximated half of the staffing as originally projected and half of the supplies budget to get to the $168,000 that is included in our current year's budget. and then the one-time cost for furniture of equipment of about $35,000. And this proposal did not include pickleball at all. So since the budget was adopted, and I'll note this was something that Todd and I were spearheading, so it was Todd and I that were looking at these spaces, and that'll come into play a little bit later in the presentation. So what did we find? Space availability is very limited in Morrisville at all. I don't think that's a surprise to us, but limited options to select from. And then what other factors were we looking at to meet the needs of the seniors? Proximity to our other towns and facilities and our neighborhoods, the compatibility of uses in facilities that we might be looking at, the configuration of available space and the related upfit costs. The primary driver really turned out to be parking capacity, and that really influenced what we could even look at. So the flex space, so that $15 I've mentioned a couple times was really a flex space rate, and that is not what is available to us. We are talking about significantly higher lease rates for rent in any of the available facilities that could accommodate our senior programming. And we are finding there is a strong desire for long-term leases, so I'm talking 5 years, than what we might want to consider. I think as we've looked at what we projected and what the seniors are looking for, and again, even with the parking improvements that are planned for the historic Christian church, that facility is not suitable for the senior programming needs. So where did we look? Other than saying everywhere, I've tried to show you the very specific places that we explored in some depth. So Town Hall Commons, it was of strong interest because of its proximity to Cedar Fork Community Center and being able to tag team those facilities. But the space that was available at the start of the search is not available. We looked at almost all of our retail locations in town to determine if there was anything available there. We looked at other smaller retail areas besides our major shopping centers. We talked to Wake Competition Center. I tried to get somebody to contact me about Hatcher Grove Missionary Baptist Church. We looked in Perimeter Park. How are we looking? Mostly there's a search engine called LoopNet that lists things that are available, and then the Triangle Business Journal also issues quarterly space listings that we were scouring. So we've identified 2 options for your discussion and consideration of next steps. One is in McCrimmon Corners. There is a 3,000, roughly 50 square foot facility. If you remember where Tossed Salad was, it is that space near the Harris Teeter off of Davis Drive. The rent for that building is $29. It's a triple net lease, which means we pay the expenses of operating that facility. So we've estimated that to be an additional $3 per square foot. They are looking for a 3 to 5 year and strongly looking for a 5 year. And Harris Teeter has to approve any tenant occupancy in that shopping center. The estimated annual lease cost alone is approximately $100,000. So within our budget, but at half the space of what the original projections were. What are the advantages of this site? It's safe, it's easily accessible, it's very visible. Parking is not an issue here. The hours can be expanded into the evening because the shopping center is still operating. It consists primarily of open space, so there is the possibility it could become a larger space for some town meetings. And then the rent, as I mentioned, is comparable to the budget, although for less space. What are the limitations of this site? They will not contribute anything to upfit costs. Based on our inspection of the site, those could be significant. The space and size and layout would help with some limited program expansion, but not a lot. And we could not do concurrent programming. The landlord for this property is out of town that may just complicate and lengthen any discussions on this property. As I mentioned, there is limited perceived negotiation ability on this project, and assuming janitorial service and any other of those kinds of costs would not be included, so those would be additional costs to us. The other option that has been identified is in Perimeter Park. There are 2 spaces available actually in the same building there. One is downstairs, one is upstairs, serviceable by an elevator. And I would tell you the upstairs is the better location. That is Todd's and my opinion on that. But it is serviceable by an elevator. It's a very well-appointed 2-story brick glass building. It is near I-40 and Airport Boulevard on Slater Road. The rent is $20, and it is a full-service lease. They also want a 3 to 5 year lease, probably have more flexibility on the 3-year end on this one. The lease cost is about $150,000, so more than our budget for the lease space. The advantages of this one, I mentioned it's a very well-appointed building. It is an office environment with some limited night activity, so there'd be some additional steps to take if we wanted to use it in the evenings. The parking could probably accommodate our current capacity and usage, but would become problematic if we expanded significantly. It can handle expanded program. It could potentially be meeting space. There is some outdoor space that some light outdoor activities could occur. I believe there's probably a potential to negotiate some here, and reasonable upfit can also likely be negotiated here. As an office, it's less upfit costs. The limitations on this property is it is an office environment, so it would be very different than what we would be using it for. It's a less visible, somewhat remote building. I mentioned the parking capacity limitations, and despite the size, would not accommodate a pickleball program. So what are our potential next steps? We could continue to seek alternative solutions. We could consider space outside of Morrisville. That was a question I was asked. We have not pursued that option at this point. As I mentioned, Todd and I did this, so we have not used the services of a professional broker that may or may not have more knowledge and ability on our behalf. We could further evaluate additional costs on one or both of these properties. Both of these would require dedicated staffing, so that would be an additional cost that we would need to consider. As we explored, sorry about that. If we want to pursue pickleball as an alternative activity, there is likely the opportunity to do that at Wake Competition Center. We look to see if they could accommodate senior programs, and they are too small to do that. They don't have the meeting size. And then, again, that is, additional lease and equipment costs to support a pickleball program. Our next steps are really to see where you want us to go with this. We've talked to the Senior Advisory Committee a couple times. They are meeting on Thursday, and I have indicated I would be there to update them on this presentation and council's discussion. Would like to now involve the Parks and Recreation staff and Senior Advisory Committee in potentially looking at these facilities. And then a budget amendment is likely if we proceed. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
If I could ask, does option 1 include pickleball as a potential?
It does not.
It does not. Okay. So neither of them would do pickleball.
Option 1 is not even large enough to accommodate pickleball.
Mayor Pro Tem and then Councilmember Johnson.
Well, thank you for the update. I would just like to say that currently our senior program is shared with the Cedar Fork Community Center. It has a single classroom, so there's single programming going on there. And then the MAFC, when it was open, there was some senior programming going on there as well. There will probably be continued swim classes and so forth offered in the future that are not related to pickleball, correct?
That is correct. And I think if I could add on 2 points, One is related to MAFC. I believe some of those exercise programs would revert back to MAFC, Silver Sneakers. There still will not be space to accommodate what the seniors are looking for, which is their own space. And at Cedar Fork, it would be some offsetting revenue that we could project from using that room that currently is used by seniors to program other things. So preschool, camps, et cetera. Have not calculated that yet, but recognizing that room could be available for some limited revenue offset if they were to come out of Cedar Fork Community Center.
That's great. And that's also goes into the overall formula for how we're going to accommodate the new spend. Looking at both of the options, I see the former tossed area as having a single function or a single program at a time, because it's very open right now, and even if you put a divider, it would have limited space. So that facility would be similar to Cedar Fork in its function in the way that I see it today. Maybe, there's other designs. I do like option 2 more, because it offers potential multiple programs occurring at the same time. It is a larger space. The parking can be mitigated through offering a shuttle service at programs that might have higher attendance. We could offer a shuttle service like we do for many of our town events. When we want people to park further out, we do offer that. So that might be a way of kind of mitigating some of those parking issues that you mentioned in the opportunities, I think. But I do like the fact that we would have a dedicated space. 3 to 5 years is a good time frame, because we're doing a lot of capital spending on the furniture, equipment, the PCs, and so forth. I'd be leaning towards a longer lease than a shorter lease. So.
Thank you. Councilmember Johnson, then Councilmember Rao.
So Martha, you have not shared this with the Senior Advisory Committee yet.
No, I'm on their agenda for Thursday.
Okay. I would really like to have their input. I know several of us were just out there at an event they had last week, and they are busting at the seams in that room. So I don't want to speak on their behalf, but I would, from speaking to some one-on-one, they would rather see a new site sooner than later. So I would like them to kind of weigh in here. And I too agree. I know that toss site real well. I think the second option is a much better option. But I want them to kind of take a look at it and to hear the presentation and make sure it fits their needs. Just because I think it's a better option is one thing. But so if you could share it with them, and then I would say if they're okay and they're comfortable with one of these options, I'm behind them 100%, and let's move forward on something sooner than later. I don't see the need to retain a broker. I think the town's not that big. We all know. You all know, and I am sure you and Todd have scoured the earth. So I'm comfortable with that, and I'm not really thrilled about considering a site outside of Morrisville. If this is a site that can meet their needs, like I said.
Councilmember Rao, then Councilmember Garamella, please.
I like option 2 for some of the reasons that have already been stated, and I really want to thank the staff for looking at options. We were recently at the senior day celebration at Cedar Fork, and this was a question that we got a lot about programming, so very timely. It's made me think about, we're going to be revisiting our CIP plan soon, and just in terms of, is this something that we're looking for, even if it's an extended lease for a few years, continuing to look at our options of actually having our own senior facility. And I think that's something that I've been thinking about around recently, is I think we've seen a lot of progress on things that we've got going in the past, like transportation projects, MAFC renovations, but we're not seeing a lot of new construction and development for facilities for our own programming. we've talked in the past about a community center on Town Hall Drive. Maybe this might come in long-term to our town center planning. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the council, because I think that we're at a point now where we've got to look at setting a vision, and I would rather have, in my mind, a senior center that's closer to where people live, that's in the Morrisville, than, an option where it's outside of Morrisville or they have to go to an office environment. But that's just I just wanted to plant those seeds for a little bit of our long-term vision. And how we get there, I don't know, but thank you for your updates. And input is important to me too from the seniors.
Councilmember Garamella.
Martha, can the pickleball be not accommodated in the racquetball or the new tennis courts that we are building?
It is not large enough.
Not large enough. And what about the new tennis courts?
No, this is an indoor.
Indoor. They want indoor. Okay.
But if you think about the size of a volleyball court, that's roughly approximate to a pickleball court.
Okay. Then how about just on the pickleball? We work some kind of an agreement with Net Sports or CTP. At Net Sports, actually, because they have indoor facilities, and if we could rent it from them, it is centrally located just for that component. And my opinion, I would go with option one for a couple of reasons. Obviously, the space is half, but having a location that is closer to the neighborhoods and closer to the shopping complex, it feels more as, part of the city, where it's not just the seniors, like when I see that the seniors are going there and their activities being happening, when I just walk through this complex, it takes me more pleasure. These other location is far, it is not close by, and other than the seniors, no one else will be going, and it's not easy access, So my personal thing would be location point of view, either this location or neighborhood Walmart is so centrally located areas that is people can come do other things, and Town of Cary has one small, they have rented a small shop at Amberley, and as part of the Cary Parks and Recs. So that basically, people go in, register at off times, like evening times. So I'm looking at that kind of a thing. When you have the staff, at least they can come and ask questions as a walk-ins than compared to perimeter that is not easily accessible. That person has to go for the reason to go. This could attract more people, actually. That's my input.
Thank you. Councilmember Schlink.
Thanks, Martha. I guess long-term, is that what you're trying to accommodate long-term also? And then we were looking at something that's 7,000 square feet in the future, or are we looking at something that is closer to 5? I don't know.
I think we have a spectrum of things that we can consider. The bigger it is, potentially the more it can expand. It could accommodate. I mean, we put Parks and Rec in a different facility a year ago. It really doesn't make sense to move them, and we are in a lease. There are opportunities, but we are recognizing, one, that I think it'll take more money than we put in the budget, and it is an annual recurring expense. I think that is the point of trying to get some feedback. You just have to be aware that there's going to be some ongoing expense that's even more than what has been included in the fiscal year 20 budget for whatever length of time, and it will then hinge on what your CIP discussions are for future senior programming needs.
No, I get it. I was looking for something, right, 7,000 just seems like a lot of square footage that, some of it might go to waste. Wherever we move to. It seems like if we're using 1,500 now and we're busting at the seams 3,000, seems like it could accommodate that. I mean, short of pickleball. I don't think there's another town that has pickleball indoors, maybe, but maybe they do it on a volleyball court, and I think that can cover it. But I think in the meantime, they could play outside. We could certainly accommodate them, I thought, on the outside with different markings on current tennis courts. Or look forward to Morrisville Community Park when we upgrade that, maybe doing a pickleball court and something else. Long term, I'm focused kind of too that Cedar Ford Park Community Center seems like, why, I'm sure we probably looked at it, but why couldn't we long term just add on to that and get the space we need and then do it? It's a great location, but that's just for the CIP, I guess. And what are the target hours you're kind of looking at? You don't have to answer it now, but I'm just kind of target hours.
Okay.
And you're looking from 8 to 5, or are you looking from, because what do we do now? That's why I'm back to a central location like the Cedar Fork Community Center, just expanding on that. And I know we envision fields there, but at the same time, I think this could be used too. And I guess our new outlet mall, there's no availability there? Wouldn't be? Okay. I'm kind of, the second, option 2, what are the upfit costs for that?
We haven't estimated any of the upfit costs. Office environments typically recarpet, repaint, might move a wall or two for us. That's just part of their normal transition between office tenants when they negotiate leases. McCrimmon Corners was very clear. It was as is, and it's significant. I just can't put a dollar amount to significant. It's just one time.
Right. I agree. Option 2, does that include utilities, or that's separate?
It is a full-service lease, option 2.
When this comes back, whatever, I would appreciate something on the lines of the hours you plan on keeping it open, and then the additional things. A council member brought up a good idea about transportation, additional stuff like that. Just, I would love to get a handle more on the budget side of it.
I did do some estimates for expanded hours, and be happy to share that and confirm that with the Senior Advisory Committee. I'll just also offer that's just a very small portion of the overall cost of this, the incremental hours of operation.
Right. Okay. And then compare that to what we currently do now, I guess. Thank you.
Also, you mentioned Wake Competition Center might be willing to partner with us to provide.
No. They would lease to us.
Well, I guess that's what I mean, lease some space. I think of that as a partnership. Triangle Table Tennis, I think, is also doing pickleball also, so that might be another alternative. As you've put forth, there's pros and cons to each. I really like Councilmember Garamella's idea about having it be more central and visible, and more, I think, accessible. But we do like the more space. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from what the seniors are looking for. If they want to drive this and let us know what they're looking for, I'd love to hear it. I'd love for us to keep our eyes open into the future too, in case something else does appear. These are 2 options now. If another one happens while we're in process, I think it would be nice if we could have more pros and less cons. But we really appreciate you moving forward and bringing us something that we can move forward with. I think we're all very supportive of this. So move forward and keep our eyes open. All good? Any other questions? No? Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much, Ms. Page. Now we are at item 7, future meetings, events, and town citizen involvement opportunities. All of our activities are always online at townofmorrisville.org. Just wanted to highlight one. East Meets West Festival is taking place this upcoming Saturday, September 14th from 11 a.m. till 4 p.m. Now we're at item 8, council and manager comments. Town Manager Page, do you or staff have any additional comments this evening? Not at this time. Okay. Council member comments, anyone want to start? I can go ahead and start real quick. I'd like to thank Brian Vinson and other Parks and Rec staff for the Senior Appreciation Luncheon on Friday. That was a great event. And also thank you to Matt Laban, Morrisville Fire Rescue, and all the other staff and sponsors who helped make the 9/11 Memorial 5K such a success this past Saturday. Councilmember Brown?
Well, two of them have been taken off, so same ditto on the first responder run. I couldn't believe the firefighters running in their outfits. It was so hot. So really impressive, Chief Riddle. And quick thing, first of all, I just have an administrative request to Benjamin Howell or the staff. Recently, some citizens at Preston Point had indicated to me that Go Triangle's bus stop site is being proposed at the CVS across from Preston Point, and we don't know if there's any options of seeing if we could work on getting it moved to Preston Point for safety reasons, because otherwise seniors are going to have to cross the road. So I'm sorry that I didn't give you advance notice. I was going to ask you that. I appreciate that. And then I have just two more comments.
Just real quick on that item. It's actually it's a Go Carry stop. It's not Go
Go
Triangle.
Carry? Okay.
It'll be Go Carry service on their Western Parkway route. And unfortunately, they cannot move the stop because of other safety considerations with the bus itself. The way they are routing that bus, the only areas that they really can stop are on the opposite corners from Preston Point itself. And that has to go into that. They take into account overall routing and timing of the bus, and they have their own safety standards about when it comes to intersections, which side of the intersection they stop on and how far away from the intersection they have to stop. So that's why that stop location was chosen, and there's really not anything we can do about it.
It just seems frustrating because some of those seniors, it's like, for them to walk across the street. I mean, so many residents want bus service, and I feel like, I guess there's nothing we can do, but some of them were frustrated. Well, I'll relay that to them, and thank you. Last couple of things. I just want to thank everyone who came out to the town hall meeting with Senator Nickel. It was really great, and I've got some ideas on having a more structured speaker series program where we can involve other council members to leverage our connections and invite people into the town hall in different areas. So I want to bring that as a roundtable item, but that's something in the future. I'm going to send a document to you guys on that. And final shout out to tennis. The Atlantic Tennis Tire Championships is going on in Cary Tennis Park. Pro tennis players from the U.S. Open have come to Cary. It's actually being televised on the Tennis Channel. I think it's just really exciting to have pro tennis so close. So if you're in Morrisville and you didn't get a chance to go to the U.S. Open and you didn't watch the U.S. Open, you got a chance to watch great players play just a mile away from here. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Johnson, then Councilmember Garamella, please.
So also kudos to the fire department on the 9/11 Memorial Walk this past Saturday, but special thanks to the police department and Parks and Rec, and I'm not sure if any other departments were involved too that helped support that event. So kudos to everyone, and to our citizens too that attended the event. I appreciate their attendance. Martha, I just have a question because I think I know the answer, but I want to make sure that we all know. Recently with the hurricane out east, some of our staff, our fire department staff, was deployed to help with that. And so I just want to make sure that we're all aware of that, and that I don't know if you can add to that, and to thank them. And I really want to share with our citizens that our staff is often asked to help on many natural disasters, and they have in the past as well, from other hurricanes, tornadoes, to even the fire events that happened out west. So if you could just share with us if you know anything.
And I'll start. I don't think it's okay. There we go. I'm going to ask Fire Chief Scott Criddle to come up. But yes, 4 of our firefighters were deployed even as hurricane preparations were going on. They joined a team from Apex and were staged at Edenton. They respond with hours of notice, and Chief Criddle's going to take it from here.
Yeah, we frequently, when the storms are expected to make direct impact in North Carolina, we are attached with Apex. We team up with them to staff a Type 2 swift water rescue team. They can also be used if they don't have swift water events wherever they're staged. They can be used to do still water, which is something you'd see more typically on the TV when they're getting folks off the roofs of structures and things like that. The state has a pretty robust aid system where anybody who's struggling and outside of their capabilities can request assistance, and we, when capable, will answer those requests. We can work on that with communications to get that out. So I'll reach out tomorrow and make that connection.
And please extend our thanks.
Oh, they love doing it. Thank you.
Councilmember Garamella, then Councilmember Slink.
No, I think most of the questions were all, I had the same comments, no comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Slink.
Yes, I appreciate staff getting ready for the hurricane, though so I imagine there's some lessons learned, for that, which is great because I'm sure we'll have another opportunity this hurricane season to use that. And then I was wondering if down the road in your news and notes, we had the update on NC 54 and aviation, the road project there. I think it's a little more, it's easier to follow that if we had a briefing with diagrams and things and could ask some questions. I think it'd be beneficial for the public too, if that's something we could do down the road. Okay, thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem Scroggins Johnson.
I think a lot of things have been mentioned, but what we didn't say is that the East Meets West Festival is this Saturday, and the town is a sponsor, and we hope to see you all this Saturday. So it's a great event, and we've actually won national awards for it as well. So please join us.
Wonderful.
Where are we joining them at?
It's Park West Village.
For the public. For the public.
Yes, I know. We know. Park West Village is the location for this one.
Like last year.
Yes, that's correct.
11 till 4.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We are going to take a 10-minute break, then reconvene down there for our group work session, including roundtables. Please reconvene at 7:25. Thank you. 7:26, we are back in session. First item we're going to come back to will be Eric Smith. We'll go over our new microphones.
Right. As council may have noticed, we've begun the process of updating our audio-visual system. There are 6 new speakers around the perimeter of the chambers, with 4 pointed towards the audience, 2 pointed towards the dais. The new microphone system consists of the 8 puck-style mics that you see before you. You're not going to want it that close. I'm going to go over that too. There's 8 goosenecks mics like this, which will be placed in the dais over the next 2 weeks. There's 2 lapel mics and 2 handheld mics also. There's 2 items that council should be aware of. The first is that those mics in front of you are always on. And there's going to be 2 of them to kind of catch your voice in each direction, but they are always on. And the button in the middle that says push, if you push that, it'll turn on the mute. But it only turns on the mute while you are actively holding down the button. So you have to hold it to mute it, but when you release the button, it automatically turns back on. The second thing you need to be aware of is you're going to want to keep things from obstructing the actual microphone, whether it be a laptop or papers covering it. You want to make sure it has open pathway to your sound waves to reach it. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Do you want to re-emphasize how they're going to pick up all conversation?
Yeah, once again, they are always on. So they're going to, even if you do mute this one, you need to be aware that the one to your left or to your right is still going to be picking up your conversation, and they're kind of sensitive to anything that you may say. So if that mute isn't being depressed, it's going to pick up anything.
And that's up there also?
The dais mics, we haven't yet to decide if they're going to be always on or how we're going to program those, but that'll be decided at a later time. But if they are set up the same way, then they're going to always pick up any conversation that's going on. But the ones at the dais, I do believe, aren't as sensitive as those puck mics that are on the table.
Yeah. I like those ones, so why change them?
Sound quality. Yeah, we have issues with sound quality on the recordings.
Okay. Any other questions for Eric on this subject? Okay. Next, we're going to hear from Benjamin Howell about lap programming.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a brief and quick update that We are moving forward with applying for LAP funds for the Airport Boulevard Extension Phase 1 project. As you're aware, we had talked with you about that during the budget process, and you allocated, I believe it was $1 million towards the project. We have signed the agreement, executed the agreement with NCDOT, and have given them the first chunk of money so they can start work on the project. DOT at this point is underway with selecting a consultant that will be doing the working on the design and environmental documentation for the project. So while that's going on, I have put in the initial pre-submittal information into the LAP system, and DOT and I will be going and having our pre-submittal with the LAP office next week, and then we'll get everything in for the end of October, and a decision on that will come in January or February. So with that, right now the schedule, as we mentioned several months ago with the budget, is that we will spend the next year to 18 months doing engineering, design, environmental documentation, getting all the permits and design in place. Following that, hopefully with the award of the LAP funding, we will then do right-of-way acquisition, which should be fairly minimal, but we do have a little bit of right-of-way we know we'll have to acquire. And then we'll move right into construction. So potentially we could be under construction within about 24 to 36 months and have construction of the roadway completed probably within about 5 years, if not a little sooner, depending on how everything goes.
It's very exciting. That's moving pretty quickly. Town Manager Page has something to add.
So Ben and I have had some preliminary conversations about our match, and very similar to Morrisville Carpenter Road and the conversations we had then. The higher we go, the more advantageous it is for us. So we've done some preliminary estimating. A 30% match is 1.5 million.
That sounds correct.
A 40% match is closer to 2 million. That'll matter to Ben's application process if you want to weigh in on that or not. Ben and I have also talked strategy about that. Remember, this is the one we talked about that we could potentially get 2 passes at, and structure for what we ask for. It's, you want to go all in at the front or and lock it in, or do you want to go more conservative knowing we have a second pass? And before you answer that, I want to make sure Ben doesn't add any other important information you need to know to have that conversation.
No, that's about it.
If I could just also say that one of our goals for doing this as an intermediate is the long-term hope that we can get a grade separation to create that. So that would be down the future, but this would be an important step in that direction. So I saw Councilmember Schlenk first and then Councilmember Garamella.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, along the same lines, is there any linkage between this and the next step, trying to get the grade separation?
So at this point, there is no linkage other than we have phased the project and we have phase 1, and phase 2 would be the grade separation and connection from Church Street over to 54. What the discussions I've had with Campo staff in the past has been that with the agreement that we now have with DOT and that we can show progress that we're working towards phase 1, and of course, application into the LAP program for construction funding will help with that too. Campo can use that as additional evidence when they put the phase 2 into the spot process, which will happen later this year, early next. That'll be some additional, the fact that we have that agreement in place, we're actively working on it, that will help the scoring for phase 2 because DOT will be able to see that it's not going to be tying into nothing. It will be tying into a road that'll be connected all the way back to Davis Drive, and that the work is being done to do that. So that is the linkage. So moving forward with the LAP application with the engineering design that we're doing on phase 1 will ultimately help our score a little bit, at least on the phase 2 portion that will go into the spot.
And one more question along the same lines. Is Cary planning to then extend it further from Davis to, from Lewis Stevens to 55?
Not that I'm aware of at this time. I think in their long-term plans, they do have Airport Boulevard at least going to Lewis Stevens Road. I'm not certain if they have it planned for going all the way to 55 or not. Based on what I know that they've been working on, I think their priority ahead of any further extension of Airport Boulevard would be the McCrimmon Parkway extension on their side from Lewis Stevens to 55. They have a study underway on that now.
Thank you.
Councilmember Garamella, please.
So, from my understanding is adding this 30 or 40% is only for phase one, nothing to do with the phase two, or will we be getting something again that we had to match for the grade separation?
So I'm going to let Ben.
Yeah, no, the match is only for phase one, unless we decide to try and fund phase two outside of the NCDOT spot process. We would not have to pay a match for phase two unless we wanted to. Certainly, as we've talked about before, any money the town contributes towards projects in the spot process can improve their score. But at this time, I would not see that we would need to look at putting a match in towards phase two. I would say let's get it into the spot process this time, see how it scores, knowing phase one is underway. And then if it doesn't score well or whatnot, we can talk about for the next spot round to see, if we need to look at putting additional funds in or if there's other priorities. The one thing that regardless for phase two that we will have to take into account, but again, this is long term, will be whenever phase two does come about, there will probably be, as with most of our projects, some betterment costs for sidewalks and whatnot that we'll address at that time, but that's long term, probably 5, 10, 15 years out at this point.
So the last line actually makes me think now back, is so you're saying phase two will still take around 10 years or 15 years?
At this point, if it were to go into the current spot round that we're getting ready to start and be funded out of that round, the current spot round is for the State Transportation Improvement Program for 2020. It'll be probably, I think, 2022 through 2031. So likelihood is construction funding would be, again, in that last 3 to 5 years. So you're looking at somewhere in that 2028 to 2030 timeframe for construction funding. So yeah, you're looking realistically probably 10 years at best, maybe a little bit more. But if it did make it into funding for this next STIP, you could potentially see engineering design, even right-of-way acquisition funded, in the early 2020s.
So I'm just trying to recap. Even phase one will take that time, or is it only the phase two?
No, that would only be phase two. Phase one, the schedule we've currently have mapped out that is a little bit aggressive, but is also doable, would have construction completed sometime around probably 2022, 2023 at the latest, possibly a little bit earlier.
Then if I were to put my 2 cents, I would say go all in out, because I'm an extra $1 million now with an assurance, like at least we have better bets than that assurance that you gave me that we don't have to pay for, phase two. I'd rather go all in. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Scroggins-Johnson, then Councilmember Rao, please.
Thank you, Benjamin. That was a very helpful explanation of the LAP process. And I know that the NCDOT is really scrutinizing all of its spend. It's pushing back some projects and so forth. So I also am feeling like we should go all in. The 40% for the phase one, which will extend the road, we'll have a better chance of successfully obtaining the LAP funding match if we put more of the town money in. And so I've been through the Morrisville Carpenter Road rejections year after year after year because we didn't have a high enough match to score high enough. So let's do it right the first time. Let's get that award if we can, and let's move this project forward. The town really needs more access throughout the residence areas. So that's how I feel.
Thank you. Councilmember Rowe.
You may have mentioned this number before, and I apologize, but what is the total cost of the project?
For phase one, we've estimated the total cost to be, I believe, just under $5.5 million.
Okay, all right. And
But that includes engineering, design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction.
Okay, and then phase two?
I don't really have a good estimate. Generally, with it being a grade separation, I think realistically you're looking probably 20 to 25 million.
Oh, okay. Now,
You want to add to 50%?
yeah,
Other people's money.
I love Councilmember Garba's point. I mean, I think going all in, getting as much as we can now. One of the things I think is important, I know we're doing a transportation video, is just to let citizens know about how long these projects take. I mean, I think we have done a great job of identifying a lot of the road projects, Morrisville Carpenter Road, putting as far as McCrimmon has come. But I think there's a lot of people out there that maybe not understanding how, even if we go through this process, it's going to take, 5 to 10 to 12 years. With that being said, I'm just curious as to, I didn't know the answer to this question, and it may sound like a stupid question, but if we ever did a transportation bond for other road projects, you can accelerate it before when it's on the DOT funding schedule, right? So that's one option that we have down the road. I don't want this to be a bond discussion. I just was curious.
I believe so.
Okay.
With the change in the transportation funding legislation several years ago, I'm not sure how DOT would look at that, but generally speaking, at least in our division, they've always been very favorable to working closely with the local governments. So I believe if that became an option or something the town wanted to pursue, I believe we probably could work with DOT to try and get an agreement to allow us to do that.
Yeah, because the concern that I have is that, we're looking at 10 years out now, possibly longer, but the fact of the matter is there's been projects, I can't remember them, but there's been projects been delayed because of the revenue for DOT. So these things could go out even further. And I would think that that's something that we may want to consider down the road. Not for this project. We always want to look at LAP, but for other road projects as well. So, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Johnson.
So, Ben, remind me, what percentage did we put into Morrisville Carpenter?
Morrisville Carpenter Road, we put in at 30%.
Okay. And do you have a recommendation for us?
Not really. I think 30 or 40%, as town manager and as some of your colleagues have said, 40% will probably get us a little bit closer to feeling a little bit, nothing ever, of course, is a guarantee, but 40% definitely puts us in the best shape possible. I understand, I know that DOT had submitted this project twice before in the past. They didn't submit it last year, but the two previous lap cycles they did. My understanding is both times through those two cycles, the project had scored well and was even on the border of being funded. It's just DOT didn't put all of their priority points on it. With that being said, the scoring rubric has changed a little bit over with each lap cycle. So I can't say for certain how it would score. I do know one of the things that caught us with the Morrisville Carpenter Road was our prior year's funding. That's probably going to catch us a little bit again this time because we did receive that large chunk of funding for Morrisville Carpenter Road, even though some of the Crabtree Hatcher Creek Greenway funding has fallen off. We brought Morrisville Carpenter Road on, so that's where, going a higher match like we talked about through the Morrisville Carpenter Road project, going in with a higher match offsets the points that we don't get with the prior funding. So.
Okay. And tell me about the second pass.
So what town manager was talking about with that was based on our schedule, we can, if we apply this year and get the funding, we can make it work. It's an aggressive schedule, but we could meet our deadlines. We believe with working with DOT that we can meet our deadlines and be able to get the project under construction. However, we can also, if we didn't get it this year and had to reapply for next year, that's not really going to delay us too much. There may be a little bit of a delay. It may be about a 6 to 8 month delay from being able to actually purchase right away, unless the town decided to fund that purchase on its own. So we'll see a little bit of a delay if we don't get it this year and apply for next year. But either way, it'll work without it sitting necessarily for 3 years on a shelf.
You want to process it a little bit more, and we'll come back to you? Okay. Councilmember Schlink, do you want to weigh in on your thoughts or questions?
Yes. All in early.
Okay.
Helpful.
I was also curious about the Morrisville Carpenter, because I thought the choices there were 20 or 30, and we ended up getting with 30.
Yeah.
If you guys are suggesting that now it's a different world, 30 to 40, I'd be comfortable with 40 as well and try to move it forward, especially when you just said that it might cost 6 to 8 months if we don't get it the first time. I think anything that we can do to accelerate our road progress will be helpful. Anyone else want to say anything else on that one? Otherwise, I think staff has direction to go all in sooner rather than later. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Mr. Howell. Next thing we're going to hear is from Erin Hudson, our Strategic Performance Manager. She has something very exciting to share.
I'll ask you to bear with me just a moment while I get set up.
Yeah, good.
As you all know, we've been working really hard over the last few months preparing information within a tool that we utilized called ClearPoint is our vendor. The tool that they've provided us was giving us an opportunity to house our strategic plan, some of our departmental information, and allowing us to create a community dashboard. Essentially, what we wanted to be able to do was organize all of our detail, all of our information, and get that into a format that was going to make it a lot more user-friendly for not only our staff, but really for our community and for council. So over, again, last several months, a lot of effort from staff, a lot of hard work has gone into preparing for this. And what I would like to do is show you all exactly what that dashboard is going to look like. So I'm going to just minimize this a little bit so you get everything in one screen. So we have all of our information entered finally. We are working with the communication staff on a communication plan in hopes of launching this week. Wanted to be able to share this information with you all this evening. I am prepared to show you how it looks on, how it will appear on our website, but also how it transitions to both mobile and tablet format. I know it's important that we be able to share with our citizens and our community in the various types of methods and ways that they can get through all of the information. So a couple of things that we have done, and just as a reminder as well, we did not specifically brand the dashboard, but we did name it. We did name it Morrisville Pro. And what the Pro stands for is allowing us to track projects, that's our P, report on objectives, initiatives, and measures that are contained within our plan, so that's our R, and organize our plan into an easy-to-present manner, so that's our O. It's, again, that drill-down ability, easy at-a-glance goal and plan information, and provides us the ability to link back and forth where information is housed. So just really quickly, you all only saw kind of very high level what this might look like in a couple of previous demos. So I'm just going to pick a couple of different ones to drive you through. You'll see that our objectives are outlined here. And if you take a look in this upper right corner, you'll notice if you go back to your home page, that matches with your icon here. So you always have some alignment back. You can click from the dynamic icons along the bottom screen, or you can also access your goals here. Wherever you are, you're going to see the band under the goal, and you're also going to see the icon kind of grayed out, so you have a little bit of an idea where you are in the plan. From here, you have toggling, so that you can go back and forth through the information. We also tried to incorporate images from around the town, again, trying to tell the story of our plan, trying to tell the story of the work that staff and council are doing. You can see each of our objectives, and if you scroll down, you could just see the rest of it. Again, really trying to minimize scrolling, trying to keep everything to one screen. If you click on measures, then you start to see some of our assessment. So we have a legend showcasing what each of our assessed items means. So if you have particular difficulties with audio-visual, you may be able to relate more to the symbol than the words. We did hear from a council member that the colors, may present a challenge, so we really tried to find shapes that may be more easily identifiable. So tried to stick with some different options to give folks opportunities to access the information. We think that the initiatives tab is really where we're going to find the most value. Each of these initiatives are hyperlinked and drill down one more level. Any of our capital improvement projects, we just have a few that are highlighted in there now, are also going to be showcased and highlighted a little bit separately so that you know exactly what those are. So from here, you click on this hyperlink, and it's going to take you into further detail information about the Morrisville Aquatics and Fitness Center renovation. In just a moment, it's waiting. And again, this is where we think we'll really be able to share and showcase a little bit more of this information with our community. So a lot of this information comes from where we gather as staff. We didn't want this to just be a redundant tool. We didn't want this to just be a repeat of information that we have already on our website or located somewhere else. Some of the information will be similar, some of it will be linked together. So at this time, you can see the milestones for this particular initiative, which is also a capital project. You can see that these particular milestones have been completed. This particular milestone is on target. Here you have a little bit more information that's expanded out. And if ever you see these types of tabs, you know that you can toggle in between them, similarly to here. So you have an overview of the project. You can also see an analysis of where it is at this time. Again, we didn't want it to be redundant, so we're going to direct folks back to our website because that's where the most current information is going to be. Also, here, if they need full renovation details, we don't want to try to reinvent the wheel, but we do want to be able to provide, again, some of that snapshot at a glance, one screen, no scrolling, so they can see exactly what they want in a more concise, consolidated option here on this screen. It tells us it's about 40% complete. Our last update where we entered information, ClearPoint always measures one period back, so it's assessing from the July entry period because that's what was entered in August. It's also going to show you how current this information is. It's going to tell you the last time it was touched, so you know that if you're looking at this particular screen, whether it was a year ago or a month ago, you're going to have some time-stamped information. Additionally, as I said, I do want to show you really quick. My laptop is being a little bit finicky at this time, so I'm going to show you on my cell phone. just a second.
I put it in airplane mode.
So,
Trying to turn the, Eric, will you turn my screen to where the brightness is all the way up? Thank you. I'm not as tech savvy as I like to make it seem that I am. So here, very similarly, you have all of the same tools and icons. You can scroll up. Everything is modified so that you still have the exact same accesses. The only addition really is this top right toggle that gives you the same access that you would find along the top bar of the website. Everything transfers the very same way. It's moving a little bit slower than I would like. I apologize. So additionally, we have also updated our website. We've updated the strategic plan page. We've made that information a little more current. We are also providing, of course, a link to this dashboard so that folks can get to the information. We are providing a really brief high-level document about how to work through the dashboard, how to access the different pieces. We've added a button on the ribbon on the front page of our website so that folks can go directly to the strategic plan. We don't want anyone to think that we have done this and started this initiative and forgotten about it. We don't want staff or the committee to think, or the community to think that either. We continue to explore ways to expand use of this tool. Just had a conversation with a staff member this morning. I think we might have some additional opportunities that we've assessed and outlined there. So really excited about ways that we could use it in the future. If council has any questions or would like to see anything different, I'm more than happy to display.
Mayor Pro Tem.
so I have not played with this, and I will, just so I understand. But one of the things that I would have a question in my mind as a resident is, what's going on today? What projects are happening in the town today? And I know that you've put different categories out there, but is there a view they could just see all the activity that's happening now? Or in another way, could you answer that question of what's going on through, the way that you've designed it, and how would they do that, right?
That's an excellent question. That's actually kind of stemming a little bit from the conversation that I had with another staff member this morning is, at what point do projects get entered here? At what point do we start tracking here? So we're still defining and tweaking that a little bit. And as I mentioned, all of our capital projects by no means are included here, but we did want to include enough, some that have honestly just recently completed quicker than we thought, and some that are ongoing, so that we can really showcase all of the facets of the tool. But that is part of the discussion that we have right now is, when do we start to, what is the trigger? What is the point that tells us this is when we now start to track it here? So we've not yet made that determination. So I don't have a full answer for that one yet.
Right. I mean, we're at early days, of course, but I just wanted to start percolating. There will be other questions that people will ask as they get more familiar with the tool.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the screens with all the M's, showing that we're making good progress. Any other council members have questions?
Great job.
Councilmember Schlenk.
Very good job.
That screenshot you had up there, I'm sorry, could I read the one about the dates? I just had a question for clarification.
Let me go back.
It was the one project and you had, the data was inputted.
There it is.
So yeah, the July 19th, so they're looking at that and they're saying that July 19th, it was 40% complete. That's how I look at it, but is that incorrect?
So the data was actually input in August, and the look back period for the vendor is actually the previous month. So it's actually, this was input in August, but it's reflective of July. So, because it's always looking at the last month.
So could I assume then now it's September? Is it more than 40% complete? Because we're basing that on July, but I see your September 5th was the last time you updated. That's just where I'm just subtle point, I guess.
Okay, okay.
So you need the July 19th date there.
Well, that's 2019, right?
Yes. It's the year, the month and year.
So
But I do understand your point.
to
Work
sort
in
of
progress.
piggyback on what Mayor Pro Tem said, test drive it, run through it, come back a couple times. The goal was to get it out there and start getting feedback and input, not only yours, but council or citizenry, to make sure that we're providing the information they want. We did talk about, this was really the strategic plan snapshot, and we talked about supplemental project tracking that would come next. And Erin's taking a lot of these initiatives on the reporting, tracking in her new role, and we're working on that. But I think it is important to go in and out and see how it drives for you for more robust feedback than just initial gut reactions.
Councilmember Garamella.
Erin, I did look through it, and I kind of agree with what Vicky said is if you have a tab somewhere that can just, when you click it, shows, you even said like some projects were completed. It is okay. You know, we can put it in the completion tab in that, you know, like when you click it, I can clearly in one page see just the headings. Okay, Morrisville Carpenter, these are going to start, and these are ongoing, and these are complete. In that way, I can then click back to those ones, which pretty much takes you here. And that way, it's basically showing the progress. And here, this is good. Like say July 19th, it says 40%, but I like some reason. I was looking at Wake County Construction, you know, how they track it. They have like a bar chart, you know, like the side. They say, you know, it doesn't say when it's going to complete. So how would I come to know without, you know, just looking at it, if there is kind of a roadmap, a Gantt chart type, you know, 40% complete, anticipated at the end if it has a date of, say, mid-2020. So at least I know, okay, that's the time it's going to complete. So I don't have to think too much into it, but just a pictorial view of the Gantt chart style, that would be excellent.
For multiples, not just a set.
Yeah, I mean, even if I had to go here, you know, if there is an option of 40 in a Gantt chart, I don't know if it's possible for them, but it shows like it in one shot. I don't have to look at two tabs. It'll just show, you know, like by July 19th it's 40, and by this one it will be complete, and just a red bar showing that that's the progress.
Okay, so how would staff like us to give that feedback as we dig in further? What would be the best method for us to let you guys know? Because sometimes it's hard to do in an email. Sometimes you have to talk it through.
If you have an opportunity to just kind of quell through it over the next week or so, and you feel comfortable with an email, or you want to call, or you want to stop by, and we can walk through the site, and you can provide feedback that way.
This is very exciting. You've obviously already made some of the recommendations that came out of earlier discussions. Mm-hmm. So I really appreciate that. Anything else? Councilmember Johnson.
And you may have answered this in another conversation because we've talked about this often, but remind me, can you track how many people are actually visiting these pages so we know how much interest there are, and maybe even on which pages?
I'll have to follow up on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Google Analytics.
Yeah, there is a way that's more than that. You can clearly find out every page which they are hitting more views and those.
Yeah, I know you can, but are we getting that information? Are we?
a service provider should be able to do that.
Okay.
And the time it takes to load pages.
Okay. That's great. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Bring that forward. Very exciting. Next, we're going to hear from our town manager about a request that came in.
So Rob Kent, who is a longstanding member of our Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, is also a volunteer coach. Those activities have resulted in him exceeding his missed meetings quota. He has requested to council by email an exception to our attendance rules. He provided in that email to you his rationale and reasoning for doing so. Our rules, and Aaron's got the specifics if you need to talk to him, just indicate that is council's discretion to make that waiver. We have no guidelines for doing that. We have not had a request to consider doing that. So given your direction, Jerry is here if you want to hear from a Parks and Rec and Advisory Committee perspective. I do believe I can speak for him and at least the chair of the committee that Rob is a valuable and engaged member of that committee. And I'm happy to share any information you have with the committee or try to answer your questions or follow up that you have or have not granted his request.
Okay. Does anyone have any thoughts about Mr. Kent's request? Councilmember Johnson.
So I did go read the wording in our policy about the exception, and we, as Martha said, it's at our discretion, and it is pretty kind of wide open. So the only thing I would caution is that, and as Martha said, this is the first time it's coming through, so this is not often. But I would caution that when we get these exceptions that, and I know we're all doing this, but I want to say this for the public too, that we're taking into consideration why the exception is needed. And so in this case, the exception is needed because Rob is also coaching in our Parks and Recs department. So that is a direct tie to the committee that he's serving on. So there's such a strong connection between what he's doing and why he needs the exception that, for me, that rises to a point where it probably is okay to grant or not probably okay, it is okay to grant an exception in this case. But I think we should be real careful when we do this, that's all. And I know we're gonna be careful about moving forward because now we've set a precedence. But again, I think there's such a deep connection between the reason why he's not just missing meetings because of work related or vacation. It's because he's serving the town of Morrisville in a different capacity. So that's just my 2 cents on it, and I would be in favor of granting him an exception for sure.
And if I may add at this point, I think an appropriate and reasonable additional request to staff would be to perhaps draft some guidelines for your consideration of exceptions.
That'd be nice to codify that. Councilmember Garamella.
What is the exception? I read it, but how many is he asking? Because that's the key, right? If he lives in my neighborhood, I know him very well. He's been passionate. First, he used to teach my son soccer when he was 4 years old. Now he moved to volleyball. But the key is, what is the exception? Because if he is missing every meeting, then it has no value. So I just wanted to know.
So I'll add what I'll know, and I'll sort of ask Jerry to kind of head up this way in case he can add. Our rule is once you've missed 3, and there's some notification processes, you're, I'll say, automatically dismissed. And there's a process by which the staff support is notifying that candidate. I personally attend a lot of the Park Rec advisory committees and have even observed Rob come for as long as he can until he coaches. The rule is 3 within a calendar year. So what's happened is we're in September and he's already missed those 3. Start his meter over again in January anyways. So he's asking to be allowed to stay on the committee even though he's missed 3. Jerry, you want to add?
If I can too, Martha, I'll clarify as well. Any committee that has 11 or more meetings per year, they're allowed 3 absences. Parks and Rec meets every month, so they've got 12 meetings. So once they hit that 4th absence, that triggers the dismissal.
Just a few notes to add. Rob, as town manager said, Rob is a very involved member of the committee. He volunteers and comes out to special events very regularly. He puts in hours outside of the meetings on a regular basis. In this particular case, Rob coaches volleyball for us in the spring and the fall. He's also coached basketball for us. And so he's with us year round. And as was mentioned, he missed 3 meetings. The 4th meeting that he ended up missing, I'll be honest with you, but I know he was very frustrated about. It was during the time that we were doing the construction at McCrimmon, and McCrimmon was closed. He was running late getting to the meeting from work. We had a very short agenda that night, and I literally passed him in the driveway. He was trying to pull into the parking lot as the meeting had ended very early and we were leaving. And, you know, he knew he was running late. He was trying to get there. He was texting Karen telling us he was on the way. So for what that's worth. He didn't request an actual number of exemptions. I have looked at the volleyball schedule for the remainder of the fall season. He does not have a game scheduled on the night of our meeting this month or next month. So at least for the next 2 months during volleyball, there wouldn't be another conflict. And then basketball games would start up in January, which would be under the new year.
So that's exactly where I was trying to get to, is if we control the schedule of his volunteering, if we can keep that in mind when he's doing his basketball, then that gives him a chance to come back. You know, you can't double tag him during the same time doing 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
I'll speak for Jerry. It would be very difficult to control his volunteer schedule. That would just be really, really difficult. I'll add, Rob tweets and posts and likes. As Jerry mentioned, he attends. He's one of the very few people that actually comments in our budget portal and things like that. So he is he was at the 5K on Saturday. I spoke to him at the 5K on Saturday. Very involved and engaged citizen.
Yes.
I would like to echo a lot of Councilmember Johnson's thoughts. Those went through my head, so I think that an exception this time would be appropriate. And then maybe each calendar year the exception resets as necessary. He'd have to ask again next year if this were to happen, would be my thoughts on that. But having some guidelines would be very helpful. Councilmember Schlenk.
I agree. I don't have any problem with granting an exception and then looking at policy suggestions.
I don't mind an exception in this case, but my only concern is that, you know, once you start making exceptions, then other people on our committees may come and say, something's come up, whatever, you made an exception for him. So I have a little bit of reservation. A lot of us know him. He's a friend of mine, but I just am concerned about, you know, the public looking at this saying, well, it's someone we know and like, and so we're just providing an exception. But in this case, I'm going to give an exception to that, basically just saying that he's going above and beyond the call of duty to help while he's coaching in Parks and Rec. I think if it was anything outside of that, then I think I clearly would be a no on this. I just want to be clear about that.
It's up to our discretion, case-by-case basis.
Yes.
So I think that's very helpful. Mayor Pro Tem Scarlett Johnson.
So I support the exception because he is also involved in Town of Morrisville, and that Town of Morrisville events or volunteering is the conflict. I would request that he look at his schedule next year, and for those conflicted games that may pose ahead of time. And, you know, we used to, years ago, have excused versus unexcused, but if he sees that there will be a conflict, if he was proactive and said, I know that I'll be missing 2 games, 2 meetings because of the game schedule or something, bring this to us. And like Councilmember Rouse said, if you're missing it for work, if you're missing it for non-town of Morrisville stuff, that's a different consideration, and that's why the policy's in place.
Okay. No one else wishes to weigh in? It sounds like the exception is granted. We're looking forward to some policy guidelines to be brought back to us on that issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Town Manager. Okay, now that was the extra little staff stuff for the work session. Now we're at roundtable. So it's 8:15 now. I don't know if we want to timestamp this and keep it within an hour maximum, perhaps?
Or less.
Or less. Less. I know that we have a number of people have at least one. I have 3 that I'd like to bring forth. Perhaps we'll go through once around, and then we'll see where we are and see if we want to continue. Would anyone like to bring their item up first? Or any discussion on that process first?
Right.
Okay.
I would say actually 2 per person would be the max tonight. We haven't had a roundtable in a while. I know you want 3, but we might not get to 3. Also, I mean, mine is not for a lot of discussion. Mine's just a yes or no kind of thing, and I think a few of us have just this narrative with a yes or no. So we don't have to belabor anything. It's really the intent of a roundtable is to see if there's any concern, support, and then move on.
That's what I would, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's frame it in. Just, we're not going to make a decision tonight. We're just like, do we want staff to bring us more information, etc. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you very much. That's helpful in the framing. Okay, anyone want to step up first?
I have one.
I have one that I just want to bring up, but it's not.
Okay, I'll go first. I printed out what I've already sent to you guys. So it's about the ERA resolution proposal. Aaron, if you could put it on the Elmo, just so people in the audience could see it too if they wish. And here's an example from Apex. Thank you, sir. Okay. So the action requested is whether or not we would like to ask staff to craft a resolution in support of the Equal Rights Amendment for consideration by council at a later time. Apex resolution was passed earlier this year. It's available for a starting point if desired. So there's many North Carolina municipalities who have passed a resolution in support of the ERA. If the state legislature chooses to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment, North Carolina would be the 38th state to do so, and there would be a path forward for the amendment to take effect 2 years later. So I think in support of equality and showing our progressive nature of our town, I think it would be a good thing to consider moving this forward and show us as a brand of people living connected and living well. Does anyone have any thoughts about having staff just bring us something for consideration?
I don't have any problem with consideration. Yes, sir. I'm good.
Let's have them draft something very similar to Apex.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions. I mean, I'm in support of, supporting Equal Rights Amendment. I just want to know, what the criteria is when we pass these kinds of resolutions, because I think that we could get into a gray area where we start passing a lot of resolutions and proclamations that go outside our body of work in the town. And I think there's a lot of citizens that look at this board in terms of, what we're doing for driving transportation and education. So I'm fine with it, but, I support, in this case, it's specifically when the mayor emailed this, and what was helpful to me was to say that it's supporting actual legislation.
That's already in play.
That's already in play.
Ms. Hudson has
And
been
I
tracking
think,
it.
yeah, and I think that's fine, but I think we've got to be careful about weighing in on political issues one way or the other, regardless of whether it's Democratic leaning or Republican leaning, because then, I think we could just continue to do resolutions and I think go down, make it very partisan or political, which I don't think we should do. But in this case, I'm in support of it just because it does say it's supporting the legislation. So it's not broad saying Morrisville supports equal rights, because I don't think that there's anything going on in our town that would make anyone think that we're not inclusive and that we're not progressive. So I don't want people out there thinking that we're passing this because we have an issue. So I just wanted to say that, for the public record. But, thank you for bringing this up. And I think we just have to monitor these things on a case-by-case basis.
That's a very good point. It'll always be at our discretion, and we want to make sure that we stay in our lane.
Yeah.
So that's very helpful. Okay, so I believe that we have consensus to have staff bring us back something for consideration at a later time. Thank you all for that. Who would like to go next? Councilmember Rao.
Yeah, I have just one. It was something that I brought up in the past, and I just want to get an update in the future about the idea I brought up about the cultural part of our Parks and Rec department, and whether we could be looking at things down the road, whether it's MLK events or partnering with other jurisdictions. And it's just something I'd just like the staff to investigate, come back to us with something, what are our options? And culture could be MLK. We've got Kerry Diwali, Councilmember Garamella. I brought this idea about having Diwali event, maybe our own twist. Councilmember Garamella also brought up a good point about in Kerry they have a Indian Heritage Week where you can learn about Indian culture in the different states. We have a lot of other nationalities in Morrisville, so that could be another example of the cultural part of Parks and Rec. So I think that, and I'm not saying that our Parks and Rec department isn't doing an outstanding job with family-friendly events, fun events. We're knocking out of the park with the quality of events that we have, and I hear that from our families. But just if we can investigate that moving forward, that'd be great. That's all I want. I brought it up about a year ago or 6 months ago, I think, and then we never heard back. So I just want to see where the council stands on that and whether we can just.
I believe we have some great signature events, and if we were to enhance them and maybe shoot for maybe an event a month or so, maybe have Parks and Rec Department committee bring some things forward. The idea is about enhancing culture besides East Meets West, which we sponsor. I think I'd definitely support something that would have more events, knowing that that's going to take staff time and it'll take resources. But I think it's worth investigating further.
So could I modify that? Events take a lot of effort, especially our signature events. That includes all of Park and Recs, volunteers, the whole 9 yards. To ask our staff to do a monthly event is a little bit over the top. However, if you wanted to have something monthly, I would recommend a speaker series. Speaker series would have limited staff requirements. The location would have, could be a town hall, it could be a Cedar Fork. It would have limited attendance, but you could have like a speaker series of 3, one each month or something, so that people could learn more about the town or the culture, different kind of things. But to have an event, I think monthly would be too intense, and we could not be successful.
Yeah, and I don't want to belabor it. I just want to bring it up, and we could just maybe socialize it and then talk to the director and, get. I think the other thing is maybe partnering with other jurisdictions. So if another jurisdiction is doing one, rather than creating an event, we could piggyback on that for like MLK celebration or have our own twist of it in Morrisville. So anyway.
Just initiates my.
I have another one I want to bring, but I'm going to wait, email the council in the interest of time. So when is our next roundtable? Our next one?
So you have options, but the next one would be, I think, October 21st.
Okay. I'll send everyone something before that, but okay. Thank you.
Okay, so
if I could offer, recognizing that we've taken our signature events into our communications department, if you open up the flexibility to not tasking Parks and Rec, allow us to figure out where and how this might occur. Also be aware that the town just gets asked for financial support for other people's events. So I don't know incorporating that into yours, or if you're specifically asking for the town, and we could bring that part, but just be aware. Creating events when events already exist may not be the right choice versus maybe not just partnering with another municipality, but people put on events all the time, and we get those requests.
Or like, a final example would be, and I'm sorry, just like you just had, like an example of a type of event we'd like to maybe do in Morrisville is the birthday of Mahatma Gandhi. So even though there's the statue, and you and I have ideas of possibly moving that here, which I think would be great down the, but we have a huge population here, and not only celebrating Gandhi from just the freedom of India, but just in terms of humanity and what he did to change the world through his actions. That's a great example for our children, especially in a time like this. But what better place to have that kind of a celebration in Morrisville? We don't have a lot of our residents from Morrisville. I'm looking at Councilmember Garamella because he and I have been working with this group the longest. But we don't have a lot of Morrisville residents that go to that at the Marbles.
Okay. So any other council members have thoughts on the generally asking staff to bring forth some other ideas about some other events, speaker series, leave it kind of open for them? Any other thoughts?
I think Satish wanted to talk.
I meant to say where the core essence where Steve is going is more of the cultural piece. The speaker thing is a different component. It has nothing to do with the cultural component because those are two different and distinct, in my view. Like a perfect example that we had, this was a kite festival, which was a collaboration of with Town of Morrisville and TGA. I think they did it. Something like that, where our resources are limited, and if we can collaborate with others, most of the legwork will be done by them. So what does it mean to us? What does it mean to them? If we can draw that kind of scenarios, because we always hit the road, saying, as you rightly said, they ask monetarily, or we have our policy guidelines. Okay, if you want to collaborate, these are our conditions. Are you willing to stand up to that? Then, it's worthwhile, because the more the collaboration, the more the event's better for us.
Yeah, partnerships are very important. Anything to add?
I would agree with what town manager said, that they could come back with some ideas.
Councilmember Johnson.
So I agree with just about everything, or almost everything everybody said, and certainly with the town manager's suggestion. But I just want to emphasize again, I think we have a Parks and Recs Advisory Committee, and I think they need to weigh in on some of these conversations.
That's true.
And I'd like to hear from them moving forward too. So however that works, Martha, I'm fine with that.
A lot of assets and resources at our disposal. Okay, great. So that one also has support.
Okay.
Would you like to go next, Mayor Pro Tem?
Sure. I don't have anything written for you this evening, but I do want to bring up a topic that I think we're all familiar with, and that topic is employee retention. It's important that we have high job satisfaction and high employee, output, actions, and so forth. When we look at our benefits to our employees, a couple years ago, I did suggest that we expand our parental leave policy to have a paid portion of that leave. And the intent was to provide our employees with a benefit that would offer them to have better work-life balance and to offer new parents a start that would be a solid foundation, and they wouldn't have to worry taking time to do that very important transition. Now we're at another opportunity. We had a discussion last meeting about affordable living and what we're going to do with the different types of options in the town and so forth. Is there something that we could consider as a benefit to offset some housing costs? Now, it's the affordable housing solution, so I don't have like a prescriptive kind of thing, but looking at our benefits that we offer our employees, is there something that we could offer in the form of housing, or start to explore that and tie that in when we get down to the
policy discussion with affordable housing. So this ties into retention, offering our employees a unique benefit if through whatever constricted qualifications that we might have as another opportunity. There might be other benefits that other towns offer that we haven't even discussed. What are some other ideas to help with employee retention, other benefits?
So is your ask of the council is to ask staff to explore other options in addition to the affordable housing options that's going to be coming forth?
So it is looking at employee retention. It is looking at benefits that our town could offer employees, such as example one, an affordable housing like stipend or something like that. And two, if there's other benefits that we don't currently offer that other towns do that might be reasonable, we'd like to hear them to see if that would work, for cost-wise and so forth.
Can I intercede in this discussion?
Sure.
So part of my proposed work plan goals includes looking at employee recruiting and retention things. And one of the things that I'm proposing in order to get real information on that is a employee survey designed to address some of those specific things. So I think what I'm saying is I've already got this as a part of a plan to gather some information that may answer some of those questions rather than just go to a solution. Does that meet the needs of the request?
Partially. So I'd like to know the employee feedback, but I'd also like to know if there's opportunities to enhance our benefits to current and future employees.
I think, like we call as NPS in my work, is the surveys. Surveys are taken very critically, and I think that will actually give the voice to the employees to say where they are, because we had discussions all the time, and we keep on increasing the benefits, which we are and we will be doing. But the main thing is to understand what they are and what are their pain points. So at least when we get it back, then
we can focus better.
We can focus better than might be we are going a wrong rabbit hole versus
right.
a different thing. So
right.
that would help us a lot.
Very good.
Any other thoughts? Sounds like staff is looking to explore options for the employee survey, and I think we all support her bringing back ideas that can help us retain staff a little bit more and recruit.
Recruit and retain, yep.
Okay. Is that good? We can keep going this way. Did you say you want to have one, Councilmember Garamella?
Yeah, okay. This one actually is not my idea. It came from a citizen, and which I thought was pretty unique, is giving city council citations. The city of New York gives citations to people from the community of exemplary service. And I thought, and they gave this example to me, and I really liked it. And it is from an individual council member, doesn't have to go to the bells and whistles like the proclamations or those kind of things. But at least we had to keep a gatekeeping where it could be a simple form that we fill in, give it to Erin. She will basically note it who is getting, and at least there's a record, like the resolutions are done. And it not as kind of retention, but actually it makes our citizens feel good and valued. So I think that is a key focus of these kind of citations, which Chapel Hill does it. I have seen that in the past. And this is an example of how we can do, and doesn't need council time. It's more on an individual basis, but with the record to the town clerks and the managers.
Yeah, because there is a proclamation request form, so This could sort of mirror that, but be more of a citation form. And there's certain guidelines around that and a time frame. And then Erin would just bring it forth, and if it meets the guidelines.
Yeah, she doesn't even have to bring forward. This is like, if you look at it, it's as a duly elected member of the New York City Council. So the entire council is not even needed here. It's just signing as an individual council member here. So that basically gives faster leverage than, waiting 2 cycles for a meeting and all that. It doesn't, because we are elected, and I think it makes some common sense for that we will not be giving it to everyone, but the people who are valuable.
Any other thoughts? Councilmember Johnson.
So I guess my only thought is, the devil's in the details. So the criteria we have now for proclamations, I don't think would fit this scenario.
No, proclamation.
It would have to be new
Proclamation
criteria,
is just
I believe.
like the thing that I like of the proclamation is the inventory that you're keeping, like who is getting that part of it, and it could be as simple as a similar form where, say, I want to write it to someone, I will fill it up, and there could be a staff, I don't even know what really gets into that, to give it, might be there 2-3 areas, and I write a line or 2 saying, okay, in this field, and that satisfies, and then they can move forward. That's because I'm putting my written documentation of why I'm thinking it is important, because when I was one of the recommendations for Dr. Sharma for the clover leaf, the North Carolina.
Long leaf pine?
Yeah. So I had to, give like a paragraph about that, So those are things like saying why you're giving.
Got it.
And so at least that's documented. If anyone wants to come back, they can look back into the documentation.
Yeah. I think it's fine. I think we just put some kind of criteria around
so
it.
that's
all. Some kind of something. Because if you, and I know you're not suggesting this, but if you give something like this out very frequently, all of a sudden it diminishes its value. So
Absolutely.
it really needs to be something that the criteria is some kind of bar that you have to meet, and then it holds great value. And I think that would be the thing we need to be concerned about. So.
And that's, I'll leave it to staff to look at the criteria, because several towns are doing similar. So I don't even know, but I'd leave it to them.
So is the ask of staff to investigate other towns who do something like this and bring back some ideas about how we might be able to implement it here, including changing our policies and procedures to include it?
So I don't know the bells and whistles. I'll leave it to the town manager. Like, what is needed to move this forward? That's all my ask. So I'll let her decide what it takes to shake it, to get it done.
I can support something like that to get it started, bring something back. Councilmember Rao, Councilmember Schlink?
I'm fine, completely in support of it. I think it's a great idea. And
Okay.
look at the details.
We're great. Who would like to go next? Liz or Councilmember Schlink? Councilmember Johnson or Councilmember Schlink?
Go ahead if you'd like.
Well, I've got copies for everybody, and this is, you need a copy too. Thank you. But this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. I talk about this every year at retreat. And we've never finished this. We've attempted it twice, and we've never come to a conclusion. But I really would like us as a council to revisit the work we did on establishing town council expectations about our working relationship. And we started work on this back in 2018. We didn't finish. We addressed it again at the retreat earlier this year in 2019, and we didn't finish it. So I'm just requesting that we revisit this kind of open-ended work item and finalize our expectations as we create a really good team working environment that will lead to better efficiencies and more effective working environments. So, again, I'm not asking to reinvent the wheel. I'd like to revisit the work that we've already done on this and come to some kind of consensus and then tie this up.
I agree. At the last retreat, we didn't quite get over the finish line, but we shared some thoughts, but we didn't really come to consensus as a group.
That's right.
Anyone have any other thoughts on this issue? The town manager?
Clarifying question.
Okay.
Are you asking to bring Donna back to continue facilitation, or are you asking council to figure out what they want to do?
So that's a really good question. I was going to say, if we are in supportive of doing this work, I would say you we keep telling whatever you think is necessary, and if Donna is available, I think she's helped us twice. She started this process with us, and it would be nice to have her come and complete it if that's possible. But that's me. Yes, sure.
Is there a time that you have associated with this?
So if I had my way, I would do this sooner than later. It's been hanging out there over a year now. So I don't know what the workload looks like, Martha. You need to kind of help us with that. This is an important conversation, and if it fits into a council meeting, I think that's fine. But it shouldn't be at 10 o'clock at night. So, and I'm not sure honestly, I'm not sure there's a whole lot more left to do. We really did, if you remember, we talked about some best practices and kind of what we expected, and we've got all that information. It's just we've never discussed it and come to consensus and agreed on it. And I would hope that part wouldn't be real time consuming. I would hope, but it needs discussion.
True. I'd love to hear from a couple other council members if they want to weigh in.
I support this.
Yeah, but not before the election, because there's hardly any time. There's only 7 weeks.
Plus we'll have a new member.
So that's a really good point, but so most of us are going to be back here. You're right, there's definitely going to be one new person on this council, but it's work that we've already started. I think when you bring one more person in, maybe you got to start all over again. I don't know, but maybe if we can come to an agreement, we can help that person come on board with what we agreed to. I think we're going to be the same people here.
I'm supportive, but it's better to have all decks on board before we do it. Otherwise, you're restarting or rehashing. It's like.
And then you make a really good point. Or we help establish those guidelines ahead of time, and whoever comes on board is. Gets up to speed and just kind of comes along. Well, you know how it is when you're a newly elected official. There is so much going on, and you have so much that you need to absorb that I think if you already had some guidelines in place, that might help you, quite frankly. That would kind of help you as you're entering into this new job.
And I agree, and I think some of the things is pure documentation, like clarify mayor, council, and manager roles. I think, Martha, you have very early on clearly stated those distinctions of, where those segregations of, this is the role of the manager, this is the role of the council, more on the policies, and execution is more on the town manager. So if you can take a shot at it, like if some of the things that you have already put in, I think in the presentation that you had given to the new elected, it's a lot.
That was the focus of the candidate
Yeah,
orientation.
a lot of it is there in that, So that presentation was rock solid. I really liked it.
She did an excellent job because I went to that event, and it was very well done.
I'll weigh in a second time that I think sooner rather than later is good. I think the new member will get a lot during the retreat as we all work together there in a very focused manner. But it would take our commitment to try to get together the six of us and Donna or whoever Martha feels. So I guess that's the question. Are we looking to do it sooner rather than later? Sounds like we're all interested in it. And I think we have support to move it forward, but if we can give staff a little bit more direction on the timing, and it might not be possible to get us all together before the election, but do we want to try, I guess is the question.
Yeah, I think I'll leave it to Martha to talk to each one and then work out the schedules, and because all have to be present, that's the key.
Yeah, that's
here.
for sure.
Totally, I agree.
So if even one says no, then it's a no. So
I think it's such an important conversation that we never finished. I talk about this every year when we go into retreat, that this is a conversation that a council should have, and we've just never tied this one up, and that is very concerning to me.
Do we give clear enough direction, town manager?
No.
Ask the question.
so that's pretty much it.
That works. That works. We can move on from that one. Thank you for bringing that up, Councilmember Johnson. Appreciate it. Councilmember Schlenk.
Do you want me to, can you bring up the letter? Yeah, thank you. I just thought that this is an ongoing legislation. It can come up at any point because the veto power can be overridden. There is no time limit by the state legislature. I didn't really know that, but the School of Government helped me out, or excuse me, the League of Municipalities when I talked to them about the bill. So, I mean, it could come back 6 months from now, could come back 6 weeks. So there is no end date, and I just wanted to highlight, well, the letter that Kerry did. It's just a letter. It's not a resolution. It's not a proclamation.
An open letter on behalf of the entire town council?
Yeah. Something similar, but I think it's important because, again, I think it erodes our town, every town in North Carolina, what you can do.
Okay.
And it pulls back. We don't have to include anything concerning, any senator or House representative or anybody that we could just say we just don't want this and we don't want it for these reasons. And if it ever comes up again in a veto override, please don't vote for it.
Okay, so to put a little more context, this is one that our strategic planning performance manager has been tracking for us and did some movement, got vetoed. But like you said, it could come back. I believe NCLM came out against this bill as well, and we generally support their things very strongly. I'd be in favor of amplifying that with a letter like this. I'd love to hear what the other council members think.
We've done letters in the past in support or non-support of different bills. I think this is not a good bill, and we should say so.
I
agree.
Okay, sounds like you have support to ask staff to bring back something for our consideration, generally based on this letter.
Yeah, or however staff feels, but you track it, so.
So are you talking a letter from the town council? I'm in favor of this too, by the way, but you want a letter from the town council?
Well, it can be just like this. The mayor can sign it and say on behalf of the town council.
And it's to only Cooper, or do you want it to go to our legislative delegation as well?
Yes, our whole delegation, yeah.
Okay.
Wake County one.
Yeah, Wake County also.
Okay with that, everyone? Okay. Well, it'll come back for consideration in that form, and then we'll take a look at it at that time.
So, and just making sure, I think you asked the question, but making sure I'm understanding, to Governor Cooper and our delegation?
Yes.
Okay, from the full council or from the mayor on behalf of the council?
It can be, I'm open to.
I'm not, maybe splitting hairs, but just to clarify.
Pretty much everyone. I don't know if anyone said no.
Okay, we've all done one. Anyone have a second one besides me? I'd like to go.
Okay, you've got a few minutes.
Let's make this really quick. So it is my understanding that in order to be considered for an early voting site, a municipality has to make a request and work with Board of Elections to make such a thing happen. In 2016, we did have an early voting site at First Baptist Church. And I thought it was very useful for our residents to be able to early vote, in both primary and general in Morrisville. Encourages participation. And I was wondering if we'd be interested as a council to ask staff to explore that opportunity again and bring back what the cost would be, resources, things like that. Not a commitment at this time, just an ask. And also, we would have to be approved. It wouldn't be a slam dunk even if we asked to be an early voting site. Councilmember Johnson.
Just for historical purposes, Cedar Fork Community Center was also an early voting site in President Obama's first election. So
2008?
It wasn't just the First Baptist Church. It
was Cedar Fork.
Was Cedar Fork.
Okay.
So anyhow, just for it's happened more than once here.
So I'm going to ask Erin to pull out her memory banks because we've been approached and we worked actively to try to find locations. I don't know what year it was. And short story, we just didn't meet their requirements for any public facilities. And we did not facilitate First Baptist Church. I don't know what happened in Cedar Fork to First Baptist Church. They wanted one in Morrisville, and I think that's how they ended up at First Baptist Church. But it isn't because we haven't tried. I think it's the commitment and the requirements they have for early election sites. I don't know that they even consider First Baptist Church because it was a glut there. But that's just information.
And what's the reason that they took out the Cary polling station, if you can find out?
I'm sorry, I would have to go back and dig through some emails, but I believe Martha's correct. I want to say it was 2 years ago. They reached out about a couple of different locations, and for myriad reasons, we did not meet their minimum requirements. I do not recall off the top of my head if it was space size, if it was parking, if it was a combination of things. But it's been relatively recently. We did not meet the county's requirements for early polling site locations. So not for us reaching out, but for them looking for site locations in and around the county.
Now we could bring that information
Sure.
back to you. What is
the
it?
criteria?
What the
Yeah.
specs?
What's
And
the
that's
newest
easy
criteria?
for us to find out what the criteria are, and if they're. I mean, that's easy to do.
Okay, so the ask, I guess, is to find out if that criteria, what it is, and if we might have any facilities that could meet it at this time to make it worthwhile to even apply. Is everyone comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, sounds like we're good on that. We're cooking through. We're not agonizing over things. We're doing really well.
So that's it, right?
Did anyone else have a second one that they'd like to bring forth? Okay, so our next roundtable is scheduled for October 31st. So,
Having a meeting on October 31st?
maybe it was 21st, maybe I misheard 21st. I wrote it down wrong, I apologize.
Because I have a very
October
important
21st. Yes, there's
activity
something
that
going on
evening.
that evening. Understood. Okay, thank you very much. Looks like we're getting out of here before 9. Does staff have any other comments? Okay, that's understood.
Oh, you need more
You
than
have 10
8
minutes.
So the first thing I'd like to pass out is CIP homework.
Oh, homework is good.
Action plan.
She's not going to make us do it right now.
So, as you can see, it's a thick package, and it's streamlined from all of the tools that Jeannie and I worked on developing. Twofold process here that I'd sort of like to explain. One is some policy development, and that's primarily associated with your placeholders that you put into the CIP. It's sort of where we got stuck the last time we had the conversation, and then we've added a policy discussion section on referendums we've talked about all the questions. It's to try to pinpoint your answers. So that's a first component. And what you have is really a summary of what those questions are, and then I'll say those same questions with fill in the blanks. All right, so I'm going to come back to that. The next section is a variety of prioritization tools. And this is to do a couple things. So one, I will tell you, it is iterative and redundant on purpose to really dig down and analyze what you say in a variety of ways. None of those prioritization exercises are very difficult other than establishing what your priorities are. Not to disparage you, but we figure that this is probably a good 3 hours of work. Neither Jeannie nor I think you will take the time to do that and return it to us so that we can make use of that information to get back to you. So we have a proposal. We moved the roundtable to this item, or to this night, which is off cycle because we had the time to talk about it. We propose using our September 23rd work session to do this in-house in a work session format. That we will just give you some time to complete this and move on to the next one. And Jeannie will facilitate marching you through the process. We are happy to send this to you electronically and allow you to work on it in advance, but we propose using the 23rd work session so that if you don't have time or other commitments, we can do it then. Our commitment then to you is to take the bond referendum policy discussion and the prioritization and turn it around for you to talk about it on the 24th meeting.
So we're not going to.
So short.
So that's not the policy development. That is your input on bonds and how you've scored your projects. We believe we can get that turned around for you to view your results, talk about it, and take your next steps. That segment of it. We'll bring back the policy development items. But that's our proposal for how to handle this homework and continue to move forward on those important discussions. It is currently on September 23rd, the only thing you would talk about unless you want to add some more roundtable back. But I am saying this is 3 hours. It's a lot of work. So that's just a choice to make. The September 24th agenda is also currently very light. You have several consent agenda items and a work session on your land use plan. That is currently the only items that are coming forward. So you have some capacity to go into a work session to at least review those results and talk a little bit about your prioritization and CIP on that 24th. Jeannie is also planning I'll call it a revaluation primer that she proposes to give to you, allow you to look at, and then we can come back and answer questions to continue working on revenue and getting prepared for some of the things that are going to happen a little bit later in the year. Erin has assumed responsibility for putting together the rolling calendar, and she has already made that request to staff, and so we're charting out October through December so that we'll be able to plan for those months as well. But it allows us, we think, to most efficiently pull the work forward. That's my
Sounds like a solid recommendation. Other thoughts, Councilmember Johnson?
So you don't anticipate us having discussion on the 23rd?
No discussion.
Well, so am I the only one that finds that?
I think if we can have like the table discussions we did in the retreat, you discuss amount and then come back and.
Well, so to Martha's point, you need to do homework ahead of time so that we can have a valuable discussion. I don't need to come here and have you babysit me while I sit and fill in these pieces of paper. I can commit to filling this in so that I can come here and have a conversation. So I guess I find that just grates at me, but I understand why you feel the need to do it that way, and I totally validate how you feel. It just, to come here and spend 3 hours just writing, and that just, it seems like a waste of a valuable meeting time to me. So that, but again, I totally understand why you're saying it, because we don't do our homework.
Would we like to try to make the commitment that we could get this done and bring it with us and have discussions on these items? Or do we feel like we need to spend that time actually completing?
I would like to review the document before making the assessment. I mean,
okay.
And I'll offer this. We wouldn't have time to compile it. So it would still be individual input that we're trying to synthesize and analyze for you to help advance the conversation. Where do you agree? Where do you not agree? Even if you've brought it, all of you are still just putting your individual input rather than discussing what that input is. So there is some facilitation behind the scenes.
And see, I find value in the discussion. I find great value in that.
It needs discussed.
Yes.
But it's going to be a more productive conversation if we've compiled it.
I hear you.
And that'll happen on the 24th, ideally some discussion around
Well, for
some of the CIP.
Project prioritization. That helps you advance your bond referendum and your CIP conversations.
right.
The policy things will take more time.
More wordy.
So I will commit to do this homework. If you look at these questions, these should be pretty darn easy to answer. These are all topics that we've talked about. These are all topics that.
So would you prefer them coming back to you electronically? I apologize. I was just.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I hear you. Okay. I'm in agreement. So I'm just trying to. So if you could send this to us electronically, some of us will complete it in advance and get it back to you electronically to make it easier for you to process. I'd suggest that when we actually do it here, we might want to do it electronically too, so it's easier to cut and paste and process. But if we have it in advance, we can at least get a jump start on parts of it and save some time.
So we already have a scheduled meeting on the 23rd.
Correct.
So either or, we're going to meet.
Yes.
So you have a backup plan if we get here and it's already done?
We could do a roundtable again.
I can finish it, yeah.
Roundtable is probably the backup.
Okay, because I can finish it.
I mean, I haven't talked to
I can
staff
agree.
and Aaron has just started collecting roundtable items.
Okay, so
Staff-generated ones, you mean?
So don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm saying, why don't we have that discussion on the 23rd? Why can't we do this work ahead of time, give it to you, so we have the discussion on the 23rd? This is big discussion. I don't want to. I know you said the meeting's light. How light is the meeting on Tuesday?
Very light. You have
so we can
land use plan. So the follow back up from the land use plan again. That. I assume perhaps another hour or so, give or take.
You said town center sub-area again? Different one?
No, I think this is more their recommendation. Vision and goals. Vision and goals. Thank you, Ben.
So I have a question. So let's say we finish this all in a week. Would that even help you?
If you did it in a week, yes. If you gave it to us on Sunday night, no.
Right. You need a week to analyze it.
Okay, sounds like staff will give us this in electronic. If we can get it back to her within a week, we can move forward faster.
My only question here is, yes, you give it, and then people cannot change their scores afterwards because that's it. Oh, I didn't think about that, so let me change the priorities on these things. So then it
It's
starts.
the start of a discussion.
Yes.
Changing priorities will be the collaboration.
I would expect that would happen. I would expect that you would say something, I go, oh, you know what, you're right, I've changed everything. Yeah, that's why the discussion is so
Starting
important.
point.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Sounds like you have a soft commitment to try to get stuff to you early, and we'll play it by ear. That's about as far as we're going to get on that one tonight, I
I
think.
agree.
Yet another one.
Yes, my last one is really just some follow-up on performance goals. So I have, I've prepared some input, feedback, comments on this, the additional goals that council put forth. So I'm going to send this, and I will send this electronically as well. And just in case you need it, this is what I had proposed. So I think what I'll offer is many of them are, in my opinion, are already incorporated into something that I provided to you. So what are we talking about? There's a lot of those items that are current operating budget items, items in progress, multi-year projects, future long-term planning. There's some non-financial goals. There's some strategic plan goals. There's things that I've captured out of the town council retreats and discussions and looking for that big picture stuff. So that's sort of how I framed my goals. And then there's a whole process of aligning the goals throughout the organization. They cascade up and down. The department head goals are aligned with my goals, and their staff is aligned with them. So no one person is doing this. And that's why it takes some time. So we've been working on our goals since July 1. It's just been getting them documented in the system, and all that's done at this point. And everybody was responsible for aligning the goals that they've given to their staff to the strategic plan. So that's documented in our performance evaluation system. So there are some checks and balances to doing that, and it's why it's difficult to time stamp certain things when a classic example is Parks and Rec. They have 15 or 20 things in the budget, and they have to sort of stage and prioritize and align. And all of those projects have different timelines, critical paths, processes that they have to go to. So I leave it to the experts to manage that work. But we are working on the tools. I think the key of what I read in some of the individual goals is that information. And I primarily use news and notes to do that. The more routine or short-term projects. So, because there's always lots going on. And we try to keep a variety of ways to keep you informed. I think we've said it before, we will never do enough communication. That's what we're working on, this project tracking, to continue to feed that information pipeline. But I'm going to ask you to allow the work to happen and focus on the big picture, and the updating is what you need versus it has to be done by this date. I'm asking you to leave it to the people that know what they're doing to do their job. If we aren't executing effectively, that's a performance issue. Mine, theirs, that's what it is. Your directions and all the things that you do or add on influence our ability to do the goals that have already been established. So I think that's just another thing you remember. Every time we add on or a council discussion delays, it delays something. It's just the reality of the work, but it's also why it's very difficult to say something's going to be complete by this date. It doesn't mean we don't want to be accountable and responsible. It's just, I think, the reality of how local government works versus very project-specific things in the private sector. So you've heard Aaron talk about the launch today. We're working on that project tracking and reporting. Erin's also helping me now, it's another add-on for her, to manage the roundtable items. She's going to help me route and track them better than I've been able to do myself, so that you will see some of that information coming back. We try to stay flexible and creative in taking advantage of the new opportunities, whether they're in performance goals or not. And then we've also talked about the fact that we're going to have that 6-month performance check-in for me, and this could also be a potential retreat topic if there's some kind of comprehensive evaluation or update that you want to get. So I've given you some comments. I've been pretty candid and blunt about them. I think some of them, I don't think any of them are bad ideas. It's are they goals for me or for anybody in the organization, or are they things that council needs to talk about first and consider? So that's really my comment. It's not that they're bad, it's just timing and placement, and council's weighing in on that. And we've had that struggle from getting to the individual to the collective. So I propose not doing individual goals in the future. This is where we need to just work on our collaborative discussion from the start and try to avoid all of the individual nature. And then I don't feel strongly about this one way or another, but the performance evaluation instrument you've used for me has been in place since I got here. You've never reviewed, revised it, evaluated whether it's working for you. Maybe that's something you want to do. Again, I don't have anything to weigh in on that, but if it's not meeting your needs, then it's time to review or update it. And maybe that's something council wants to consider. So I'm saying think of the global successes, challenge us on our failures, challenge us on our opportunities. And I say that I've given you a great set of goals, and I recommend that you adopt it for me.
So which are the goals? These?
This was the original one that
The
I
one
gave
pager.
you.
The
Yes.
one pager.
Okay. So I propose we could revisit this on the 24th after we get a chance to look at everything and talk about that. Would you like that in open session, closed session?
So I was also asked for some additional information by council. I have prepared that information. I can send it electronically, or we could talk about it, but it should be in closed session if we talk about that. I think that's performance, personnel related, and should not be talked about in open session.
Then we should add that as a closed session item on the
24th.
Tuesday meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
So we'll all take a look at these goals, be ready to speak about them on the 24th, and also Martha's input.
And thank you for sharing that with us ahead of time so that we can review.
Yeah, I can send everything electronically tomorrow.
Okay, that's good.
Did staff have anything else?
I'll just, and this is
only
more for Frank. You have to approve the amendment to my contract in an open session, so that is one of your consent agenda items for the 24th. That has not been done yet.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So, and we usually do that retroactively to the higher date, so that's not
Which would be
unusual.
September 23rd
Yes.
is a perfect time.
That's amazing. Okay.
Somehow we're back on schedule.
How did we do
That's the
that?
closest we've ever done it.
Yeah.
Nearly almost on time. Yes.
No, that's pretty good. We give ourselves a high
Very,
five.
yeah.
No
Did
other
good.
business. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Let Michael have it.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously 6-0. It is 9:13. We are adjourned. So we are now at the time for public address. Are there anyone signed up? Yes. Sure. So members of the public may sign up to speak on any issue of their choosing and will be provided 3 minutes each to share. To be fair and respectful of everyone's time, I will thank speakers when 3 minutes have elapsed and ask them to complete their thought. Speakers can then provide any additional thoughts in writing or via email to the town clerk or the council at their convenience. As a reminder, speakers will not discuss matters that are the subject of public hearings scheduled on the current agenda, which we don't have any tonight. Thank you for your cooperation. We have one speaker tonight, Fiona Susie. Yes? If you could state your name and your address for the record, please. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Sure. My name is Fiona Susie. I live at 106 Hewitt Court, Morrisville. I'm here on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Wake County. We are a nonpartisan political organization working to encourage active participation in government. On August 22nd, the League hosted our annual Women's Equality Reception in commemoration of the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which acknowledged women's right to vote. That evening, we recognized all women currently elected to state and county offices, to city and town councils within Wake County, and to the judiciary. We had the pleasure of honoring Liz Johnson that night, but unfortunately, Mayor Pro Tem Vicki Scroggins Johnson was unable to attend. I'm here tonight to present her with the certificate that she would have received that evening. The certificate reads, "The League of Women Voters of Wake County presents this certificate to Councilor Vicki Scroggins Johnson," sorry, it doesn't say Mayor Pro Tem, in recognition of her public service and in commemoration of Women's Equality Day. I'd like to thank you for your service to the town of Morrisville.
Okay, yeah, if you'd like to come up front. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Ms. Susie.